Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope your week has been outstanding thus far, and it's coming to a nice, beautiful, and easy close. We've got a jammed show today. We're going to go through some updates on the Florida classified documents case, and then we've got a couple of guests in the house who I'm very excited to talk to, and we're going to learn a lot today. And so let me give you a preview on what we're talking about, and then we'll get into it. And let's start off with a quick overview on what's happening in Florida, because stuff is hitting the docket rapidly. You can see a bunch of stuff flurry over the evening last night from January 15th to the 16th. A bunch of docket entries here. We got notice of compliance from the government, but the big thing was Judge Cannon actually ordered a delivery of the classified documents volume 2 report to be sent to her so that she could review it and then decide whether or not this should be published to all of Congress, essentially, or to America. Really, it's going to go to just a few people, a couple key people in Congress, but we know what happens once Congress gets their hands on it. They then leak it to the Washington Post and to the New York Times. And so we'll get our updates here and see what's happening in the classified documents case, because you can see this just dropped minutes ago. The DOJ is now fighting to stop Trump from coming onto the case. They just dropped that. That just hit the docket. This one also came out today from Jack Smith's replacement team. Jack Smith is now gone, but his replacement team is now submitting this. And we'll see what is happening back and forth, because tomorrow we've got a hearing that's scheduled on the 17th, and President Trump just issued his notice about the hearing. And so we want to see what he says is going to be happening tomorrow. So we'll get our updates on that. And then we're going to welcome back to the channel, my friends, Lectern guy. You know him as Adam Johnson, and he has been doing some interesting work. He's been keeping his eye on this case that we talked about some time ago involving this prosecutor. This guy's name is Patrick Scruggs. He's a former January 6th prosecutor. In fact, he prosecuted at the outset Adam Johnson himself. You can see this is from Adam Johnson's docket, which is now terminated because his case is closed. But what we can see is Patrick Scruggs was right there prosecuting Adam Johnson, a J6er defendant. And what we'll see is that there is some interesting things happening in his case. He was scheduled for trial on February 10th for a jury trial, and there's been some interesting things that happened today. And so we're curious to see what Adam Johnson has to say about this, because he's been following him around and going to these court proceedings, observing as a member of the public to make sure justice is done in this case, since we know nobody else will keep tabs on prosecutors who are committing crimes. And if you recall, this was a pretty big one because he was alleged to have committed multiple felonies, including being extra stabby on a Florida highway, just getting out of his car because somebody bumped into his car and allegedly just shanking this dude across the window. So we'll see what Adam Johnson has to say. He's an awesome dude, and he is going to come by and join us in a little bit. So we'll go through that. We'll see what's happening in that case. And then at the turn of the hour, we're going to be joined by Garrett, Ziegler, Marco Polo USA. You know who they are. They've been doing amazing work, including drafting the report on the Biden laptop, which if you don't have your copy, I don't know what the heck you're doing. You can get yours at marcopolousa.org, which is where I got mine. I think I got a couple of copies, but it's a great report. And he's going to stop by to tell us more about this Hunter Biden special counsel report that got dropped from David Weiss not too long ago. And so we'll go through this. We'll see what Garrett has to say about it. But obviously, he's got a lot of keen insight into this story. And I also want to ask him about what's happening with Hunter Biden's destroyed artwork. Apparently, millions of dollars of artwork was destroyed. And we talked about this morning on our members only stream. But we've got questions for Garrett. Was there any art in there? We've had a lot of fun with Hunter Biden's artwork because it's horrible and it looks like COVID and mucus. So he's going to say that millions of dollars of art was deleted. Very convenient, along with all of the other evidence of his criminality, I'm sure. So we got a great show ahead, my friends. Really glad that you're here and joining us. Before we get into any other business, on the day. We got to talk about getting healthy, because it's the new year. We're all trying to work off some of those holiday pounds that are still lingering on down there. A lot of health-related ads and stuff out there. You probably hear some of these like, hey, just drink our one weight loss shake and you'll lose 50 pounds. Easy as can be. It's not exactly how it works, but here's why lean is the real deal. It was created, lean, by a medical doctor and university researcher. And the clinical team behind lean, they say this: if you only have a few pounds to lose, if it's only a few pounds, non-prescription lean is not for you. All you got to do is exercise a little bit more. Just go for a walk and you'll shed that pound. But lean is instead for frustrated dieters who want to lose meaningful weight, not into injections that we've seen. Maybe those work, but we don't know what the heck those things are doing to your body. And so we know that they work by doing things to your blood sugar and regulating appetite. But what's great about lean is the science is impressive. It says that the natural studied ingredients target weight loss in very similar ways, like helping to maintain healthy blood sugar, helping to control appetite and cravings, and helping to burn fat by converting it to energy. And so if you're ready to lose weight a smarter way, let's get you started today. 20% off your first order. Go to takelean.com, takelean.com. Use the code Robert20 at takelean.com and you'll save. And you'll be leaner, courtesy of our friends at Brickhouse Nutrition. We appreciate them sponsoring today's show. And so let's take a look at what is happening out there. We're paying special attention to the classified documents case, and stuff is being filed as we speak. And so let's take a look at the latest here. Here is what's happening. In the classified documents case in Florida, we've got a hearing coming up on Friday. President Trump submitted his notice explaining what his position is for this hearing. And we've had some other things happening because right now Judge Cannon is reviewing the classified documents Volume 2 memo and is going to be deciding whether that can be released to Congress or not. We know once it goes to Congress, it will then become, in my opinion, public, and we'll probably see that soon enough. So we will see what President Trump says. But before we do, let's get up to speed on what Jack Smith sent into the court this afternoon. It was a notice of compliance. And I say Jack Smith is gone. He retired from or got fired from the DOJ, running away back to The Hague. But this is his replacement team that has now picked this up and is running with it. And so you can see it tells us Elizabeth Shapiro is the new attorney who's on this case. And here's what Jack says. All right, listen, Judge Cannon. The court has directed the government to provide it with Volume 2 of Jack Smith's final report. And this is going to Judge Cannon because, as we've already seen, Volume 1 is now out and published. And you probably have not even heard anything about it because no one cares. It's a rehash of all the other things we've already seen and not worth the time. Jack already released it in an appendix to the judge back when they were trying to get Trump smeared before the election took place. But now the question is about Volume 2 and whether that should be released. And there might be other things in there that Trump does not want out if you believe he did anything wrong. I don't. Now, as the government has indicated, the Attorney General has decided that Volume 2 will not be made available to the public while this criminal case remains pending, because releasing its contents to the public would risk prejudice to the defendants. And remember, there were two other co-defendants here, Walt and Carlos, who are still being prosecuted. And Democrats, I think on the Judiciary Committee even, are now demanding that Jack Smith dismiss the case against them so that they can continue the process of releasing the report, right? It was never about justice or anything. It was all about just smearing Trump. And if you're going to delay the release of the report to the public because you're concerned about Walt or Carlos Nada, the co-defendants, that's not a good trade-off for them. They want ultimate penalties for Trump. So they say the only remaining issue before this court now is therefore whether making Volume 2 available to the chairman and its ranking members for an in-camera inspection upon their request under the conditions that the government has said. Basically, we're going to lock it in a door in a room and only the most special Congress people can come look at it. They say, Your Honor, that's all you have to decide. And so a review of Volume 2 is not necessary. So you don't need to actually go even read this report. We'll just give it to the Congress people. So you don't need to read it to make that determination. But as directed, even though you don't need this, the government has provided to you, Judge Cannon, for your review 2 hard copies of Volume 2. An unredacted copy stamped on the first page as unredacted, and a redacted copy representing what the Attorney General would make available to the chairman and the ranking member of the Judiciary Committees in both houses, the House and the Senate. Now, the redacted copy protects the secrecy matters occurring before the grand jury, as well as information that you sealed. And neither the redacted nor unredacted copies contain any classified info, and so there's nothing in there to worry about. The government is arranging for the defense counsel to inspect unredacted copies of Volume 2 and redacted copies identical to what we gave you before tomorrow's hearing. All right, so that is Jack Smith's replacement team who submitted that into the court. And now Trump has submitted the following before that even came in. This was his notice before that one was returned. And what you can see is this is it. It says here, pursuant to the court's order, Trump hereby gives notice that he intends to present argument in support of his motion to intervene as to Volume 2 of the final report, saying John Lauro and Gregory Singer will appear on behalf of President Trump, with Mr. Lauro designated to present the argument. And so that will be coming out this week, tomorrow, on Friday. And depending on how this goes, we might see the report released. And again, whether there is anything, let me just say this. The report is crafted by Jack Smith. So you can't believe anything that's in it. First of all, legally, he's illegitimate in this case. He was not ever lawfully appointed according to our laws, and the case was dismissed on that basis. So everything that he touched is fruit of the poisonous tree. It should all be deemed to be moot and not considered. But in addition to that, right, his report is going to be written by a bunch of partisan hacks, and most of the materials have already leaked anyways. And so what is going to be new in there that's going to deviate the new administration? I doubt anything. I'm not worried about it at all. But I still would understand the defense reason for not wanting it to come out. You never want a biased, smearful report to come out and be spread around because, as we know, then you'll get guys like Adam Schiff who will pervert the story for their own ends. And so we're going to keep our eye on this one. Tomorrow is the hearing. Don't know if we'll get a ruling on it tomorrow, but we're also keeping our eye on the things that expire, because what will happen is that these injunctions and all these stays that have been in place will start to evaporate, and the report will go to Congress. Now, the other thing that we've seen is a plea from Democrats to dismiss the co-defendants so that the case is basically closed and they can just release the reports whenever they want, essentially. And so we're going to keep our eye on that one and follow what's happening in Florida. But we've got some other business to attend to. And we're going to be talking with our friend Lectern leader here in a minute. But I want to do a little bit of a preview on what we're going to be talking about with Adam Johnson and the Lectern leader. And so you may remember this story. This is Patrick Scruggs. You may remember him. He's a former J6 prosecutor who, when the prosecutions were just launching, was very aggressive towards one particular defendant who got caught up in the J6 scam. We're going to be talking to him. His name is Adam Johnson, and he is known as the Lectern guy. He's on X at Lectern Leader. But what's so interesting about this case is this prosecutor, this J6 prosecutor, who's no longer with the DOJ, he was accused of multiple felonies. In fact, we looked up his case, and you can see several of them right here. First degree, second degree, third degree. You've got armed burglary, aggravated battery, and aggravated assault. This guy's name is Patrick Douglas Scruggs. And what's so interesting about this is this was a former prosecutor who's no longer there. But what you'll see in this document, okay, this is a screen record from the Middle District of Florida. And this is a criminal case brought by the United States government against Adam Johnson, who we'll be speaking to here momentarily. And what's so interesting about this is that now this case has been resolved, and we'll hear from Adam very shortly. But what's so curious is this guy's name is right here. Oh, Patrick Scruggs, representing the United States government. Interesting. And now he's being charged with felonies for various things. And he was in court recently. And what we'll see is that he's scheduled for a trial, or was scheduled for a trial. We're going to learn more about it on February 10th. But this looks like this was just updated with a disposition. And so it looks like there were some things that happened there yesterday. And so we are now going to bring in our good friend, Adam Johnson, who is joining us, who you saw listed there on the docket. Adam, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Great to hear you, my man. Thank you for joining us again. It's great to see you.
Oh, yeah. I had some last-minute tech issues. My laptop decided to update last minute.
How it always goes.
Switch over to the desktop.
You made it, my man. Are you good?
I'm good.
Right on. So I think you heard a little bit of that, but we're talking about Patrick Scruggs. Can you bring everybody up to speed on what you've been doing or what your involvement has been?
Well, I've been accused of being petty before. This man told me that I was a threat to my community, gave me an ankle monitor, told me I had a curfew, a nightly curfew, couldn't leave the house during certain hours. And a year later, in 2023, I believe it was, he was filmed allegedly stabbing a man on the interstate or the highway. And the story has had lots of twists and turns since then. The person that he stabbed was, we can get right into it. He's had a history of drug and alcohol abuse. He's been arrested a handful of times. During this time, there's actually warrants out for his arrest. His name is Blake Sharp. So he's had his run-ins with the police before.
This is the person who got stabbed, just so everybody
Yes.
knows, or allegedly
Yes.
got stabbed. He was in the vehicle.
Yes. Now, does it mean that he's deserves to be stabbed? I don't think so. I think everyone deserves to not be stabbed.
Yeah. Good general rule.
Good general rule. So during this incident, he was having a medical issue. The defense for Mr. Scruggs is arguing that he was under the influence during the time. Now, they did not test him for drugs or alcohol when he was in the hospital because he had just gotten done being stabbed. And they're arguing because he has a history that he was obviously under influence during this event. So they're going with a self-defense, Daniel Penny type of story, type of narrative. We've had local newspapers already put out articles saying that, there's more to the story that meets the eye. What I saw was a man allegedly, again, innocent until proven guilty, leave his vehicle, break a car window with his knife, and then stab a man over and over again. That's what I saw. That's what the world saw. So if you're telling me self-defense is exiting your vehicle and entering someone else's vehicle, we're a stand your ground state. This was a leave your ground, enter someone else's ground altercation.
Right. Yeah. And so we saw the video. We saw some footage of that, right? People were there taking it, posting it on Facebook. And even in our thumbnail, we have the one image, right? There's a guy in the car who's got his hands out the window with, I think, blood on him. I mean,
Yes.
they look bloody. They look bloody to me. And this other, I think at the time he was a prosecutor, right? A U.S. prosecutor?
Yes. So he worked for the federal government as a prosecutor. He was my prosecutor. And then he went with a private firm, I think, shortly afterwards. They have since cut ties with him.
Yeah, okay. And he's still being prosecuted. And so this, when did this happen originally, the alleged attack?
I believe it was September of 2023 was when
Okay.
this happened. So it's been a very long time that this case has been ongoing. And there have been delays with this. There have been, look, you hire a good defense, you're going to want these things, you're going to want continuances, you're going to, come with the best defense possible. I'm not mad at the defense for bringing this argument, but this argument on its face is I don't know who would believe this. And what concerns me is I think I know the tactic they're going for. Blake Sharp has been in jail almost immediately since this event occurred. They've held him because he violated probation. He had a dirty urine test, so he is now in jail. On top of this, he is also a CI for the local sheriff's office. So he called Carlos, the guy who's in charge of his, confidential informant status, and he said, "I'm going to turn myself in. I know there are warrants." So he's been held here. What concerns me is that I believe that they are leveraging his current conditions of being in jail as a way to get him to rectify his testimony to say, I was under the influence during the time, so he might be passed off on these other charges that he's currently being held for. And in the courtroom today, that was very much the vibe that was happening. The defense was asking to meet with him in jail. They had been in contact with his father. The defense typically doesn't meet with these people. The prosecutors do. They get testimony, they swear it in. This is the person.
That's exactly right. He's the victim of a crime, allegedly, right? He just got shanked multiple times by a prosecutor. So the defense, many states, and I'm not licensed in Florida, I don't practice there, but many states have victims' bill of rights, and victims are protected against that because they don't want defense attorneys going in there and getting them to change their story, obviously.
Exactly. And I think one of the biggest injustices we've seen here is this case never should have been tried in his backyard, in the place where he has worked with these people for years. These are his friends, his neighbors. They all hang out at the same bar at 5 o'clock when it's time to check out. This was something that never should have happened in the same district that he worked in.
Yeah, and that is a really pernicious thing that people, I think, have a hard time comprehending. But when I was practicing more, I was regularly watching, basically judges and prosecutors go into the same building. They park in the same parking lots. They walk into the same buildings. They go to the same lunch shops. Okay, they're all like in the same little arena with each other. And from my perspective as a defense attorney, we're on the outs of that. We don't get that same camaraderie. And so you start to see some funny business happening between everybody.
This is what it feels like. And it's been this since day one. The defense, the prosecution, everyone's very pally-pally with this guy because they've known him for a long time. And I understand it's federal and state are different, but there is communication open between those two departments because a lot of times things get kicked from one side to the other. So when I'm watching these proceedings go under, I'm mostly concerned because the state and the defense seem to be on the same page. And while, that's a good thing because, trials do cost the taxpayers money. And if you can come to an agreement that a crime was committed and this is a reasonable sentence about having to burden the taxpayers and the judge and the whole system, that's fine. I'm fine with that. They're not even concerned about the jury trial that is scheduled for February 10th. It seems like they have no intention of ever showing up to this. It's never going to happen. That they understand that there is a play to be made and they are making this play behind closed doors.
Interesting. And yeah, I want to ask you about, you were there today, right?
I was.
You were there today. Yeah. So I want to ask about that. But, and you've been following this case for a while, but I just wanted to comment on what you said because there is like a code of conduct that exists. And you hear about it a lot with police, like this blue code of silence or this blue shield that cops have amongst themselves. And I've seen it happen. I've watched it, multiple times, but it also exists amongst prosecutors. And this happens regularly too. We had that one case in Arizona where it was the Philip Brailsford case where you may have seen the video. It went, mega viral at the time, but it was a young man who was begging for his life on his knees in a hotel room. And a cop just executed that dude.
I saw.
And yep, it was a horrific case. The guy had all sorts of, like you're effed on his gun and all sorts of stuff. It was
on his dust plate. Yep, I remember this.
Yeah, and it looked like a murder to everybody who saw it. And so they prosecuted the guy, but he actually got acquitted because the Arizona prosecutors just kind of laid down. It's just kind of like they play at like D level, and they just don't do their job. And then you see their friends get off, and it's one of the most corrupt things you've ever seen.
Well, I mean, there is a video, and again, I'll keep saying alleged because I don't like how I was talked about in the middle of all this. Yeah. But allegedly, there is a video of Patrick Scruggs committing a very, very violent act, and I don't understand where the hang-up is here. There is a video of it. This should be cut and clear. And the way they're spinning this is because this man is, has had run-ins with the police, because that he, has had these prior arrests, that his life is less valuable. I think that is such a disservice to the justice system because even if I get on board with that concept, that there are some people who maybe deserve, they have things coming to them, fine. We have a justice system to ensure that happens in a natural order, in a natural sense.
Yeah.
And every time that we see these events occur where it's pally-pally and people just, I have maybe unspoken immunity from this because we're all friends. Every time we see that happen, it degrades our justice system a little bit more. And I am nervous that we will never recover what I think a lot of us believe to be true, that the justice system is free and fair and there is balance and impartiality.
We hope for that, and unfortunately, we see less of that than we should. What happens oftentimes in these types of cases is, I think, sometimes this happens naturally, where a defense attorney will get two co-defendants, kind of two people did something wrong, and those can actually be strong cases because then you tell everybody, both defendants, like, shut your mouth and you'll be okay. Like, don't testify against each other, and you can have strength and unity. But that usually doesn't happen when you have one person knifing the other person, right? So
Yes.
the fact that this Blake Sharp person is now almost being coerced, kind of like, we'll give you a better plea deal if you agree unspoken, right, not to testify in this other case, or not to be a victim, because you made a wrong. Like, two rights don't make a wrong. You did something bad in these other cases. He did something bad here, and so just let's make it all a wash. But the problem with that is the things that he did aren't codified under criminal law such that the sentence is you get stabbed multiple times in your car, right? There
Exactly.
are other penalties for this. And so we can't have like a trade-off type of criminal justice system, which is what you're seeing there.
We do have an Eighth Amendment. It's pretty clear, like, cruel and unusual. No, you shouldn't be stabbed in your car. And I don't think that we're going to see a natural resolution that we would see. There was actually someone there today, another defendant, because courtrooms they go through a whole docket.
Yeah.
This man allegedly threw a steak knife at his wife, and he was treated completely different than Patrick Scruggs was. But again, if you're in the system, working with the system, I think there's just this natural tendency of relatedness where you get handled with kids' gloves.
Yeah, and that is a real shame. And you might think he's being prosecuted by state prosecutors at the moment, right? He worked for the federal government, and so some people might think, as you mentioned earlier, that there's a delineation between the two of those, but it's this code, right? Prosecutors like other prosecutors. I think that even if he went to another location, let alone his backyard, he'd still get a benefit of a doubt from other prosecutors. But the fact that he's right there in Florida and worked in that jurisdiction, worked in that district, he knows the judges, he knows the other prosecutors, and it's showing.
I agree. There's this biblical concept where people who are put in positions of leadership, right, that if they don't adhere to the policies and the lessons and teachings that they're promoting, that their judgment is actually more harsh, more severe.
Right.
I believe that this should be the same standard for people who are exercising and practicing our laws and through our justice system. And I don't see that happening with him at all. I see a lot of soft language, a lot of informalities even between the prosecution and the defense. It's they seem to be friendly, and they're co-workers at the end of the day. They all kind of took the same creed and the same pact, and I don't know, man. I have a pit of my stomach feeling this man is going to walk, and he's going to walk because they have held Blake Sharp in jail for a long time. Now, should he be in jail because he violated probation? That's a different case. That's fine. I understand this, but I really do believe they are leveraging that to get this man off.
Yeah, they are, because that is basically a non-cooperative or a missing victim. Like, he's not missing, but he's not available exactly. He's not cooperating exactly like another witness would be. And they've got leverage to keep him locked away. And it's hard to prosecute a case without a victim. So they're doing what they can to squeeze him out. So you were there today, and can you give us some background? You said you've been following him to these pretrial conferences, and you're pretty familiar with the case.
I am. Again, I've been accused of being petty, but every once in a while when you see, I don't know, this was just, divine intervention, call it kinsman, call it what you want, but to have my personal prosecutor, my first one, out of the situation, I was like, I'm definitely going to show up to every single court proceeding. So I've been there for every hearing, every pretrial. I've read through depositions. I've read through witness testimony lists. I went through all of this because I'm genuinely curious. I don't want to see someone go to prison for something I don't think should go to prison for. Hi.
Yep.
But at the same time, I want to make sure the justice system still works for those who are in charge of it. So I am there for every single time that he has a court date. I am there.
And in your experience, has his defense team been trying to explain this away, like as a moment of his lapsed judgment, or as a medical condition from him, or Is he, in other words, accepting any responsibility for this in order to get out of custody and stuff, or is he really just pushing it back on the victim essentially?
They are going very hard towards a self-defense stance. That is what they're going to go with. And again, if you read through all the depositions, all of these statement of facts, it is a self-defense lean they're going towards. And they're promoting him like he is Daniel Penny. There is this menace that exists on the road, and he did what was necessary to make sure that this person wasn't on the road anymore. That's where they're leaning.
Wow.
And they have local newspapers putting articles together to make this man almost sound like, what would you have done in that situation? You may have exited your vehicle. You may have been upset. You've been in an accident. People get hot-headed. People have tempers. Sure, you might grab your knife. Sure, you might break open a window. Haven't we all been there at least once?
It is such a joke to hear that as the excuse, but I can understand where they're saying this is going, right? If this guy was driving under the influence, or if he was drunk or something, and they can't test his blood, so you presume that this prosecutor, who's a sworn government official, is just trying to be out there to just save society and protect the people on the street and all that stuff. This guy is now being essentially taken off the board. They're trying to make it so he, is not going to be available for trial, or if he does go to trial, he'll be not a credible witness. But there's something when this happens, actually, right? People get in road rage incidents and people do crazy things. They're usually not federal prosecutors who are prosecuting other J6ers for violent crimes, but it does happen. And the response is always, what happens a lot too, is people will flee the police. So when cops pull up behind them, they'll see a light. They won't recognize a police car. It'll look like an undercover car. They won't recognize it. They'll flee, right? And then the defense or the excuse from the cops about why they prosecute them and really beat them up over it is because they say you should have just called 911. Just call 911, say, is this a real officer? Come here, defer it all to the cops. And prosecutors say this all the time too, because I've been sitting across from them saying, my client was freaked. She was driving home. It was 2 a.m. Some weird SUV was behind her, and the cops drive like maniacs too, like at 2 a.m. They come right up to you. They drive like psychopaths. And so people freak out. And then the response from prosecutors is always like, just call the cops. You don't have to get out of your car. Don't flee. Just call us and we'll tell you what to do. So he knows that better than everybody. And as you mentioned before, he should be held to a higher standard, right? He should be able to not do those things while he's got open cases against other people like you who for alleged violence, right? And for insurrection and all these things.
I completely agree. I don't think, he's got again, the trial date is February 10th. I will be there. I've actually blocked my calendar. I'm not traveling. I'm staying home. I will be there for, it's supposed to be a 2-day trial is what they have put together. And I don't know, it's Pinellas County. If you've been to Pinellas County, you know what Pinellas County looks like. I don't think you'll get a favorable jury because there is, higher crime in that county. And maybe he'll get that jury that's biased in the way that DC juries are biased towards conservatives.
And you were there today, and I'm looking at the disposition update. Did he take a plea deal today, or did anything happen like that today?
So what they discussed in court was going to the jail and speaking with Blake Sharp and seeing if they can't come to an agreement. They said this in open court. The state had no problem with it. The judge asked if they wanted to push off the trial date because it seemed like they might need more time. And neither the state nor the defense said it was an issue, that they should be fine by then. I think they're going for a plea deal. And I really, truly believe that they are going to persuade him to change his testimony, because his current testimony was he was having a diabetic event on the road. They had low blood sugar. Neither the ambulance, neither the ER physicians could prove that he had any type of low blood sugar. No medicine was given. So, and again, try to be very honest here. He probably did lie about what happened that day.
Yeah.
He probably was on some type of drug or alcohol. These things probably did happen. It still should never result in him being stabbed.
Right.
We have police for this. The car was stuck. The car was stalled. He wasn't trying to flee the scene. There are people who are supposed to handle these things, and being a prosecutor, you should have known that. You should have trusted in the system that you build up.
And probably a pretty obvious question, but you didn't see any evidence of him having a gun in the car, pointing a gun at the prosecutor or anything like that has come out?
No, nothing. So the way the story is written up by the defense is Patrick exited his vehicle with his knife in hand, and this is
the prosecutor.
The defense is saying this. The defense is saying this, that he did exit his vehicle with a weapon. He went over and demanded that Blake Sharp exit his vehicle. He did not exit his vehicle. So and again, this is the defense saying it, so I'm allowed to repeat it. It's not allegedly, it's what the defense is admitting. He broke the window with the back handle of his knife, tried to open the door from the inside. Blake tried to shove his arms out of his car, out of his vehicle, and then Patrick Scruggs began to stab him. So this is such a clear-cut case to me. Even the defense is saying this is the occurrence of events. So regardless whether the man was under the influence or not, he posed no threat being inside of his vehicle whatsoever, away from everyone else.
Right. So they're saying, yeah, so he broke the window to stop some sort of a reckless driver type of a situation and had to break the window down to stab him. I got it. Yeah.
That's again, why not call the police? Why not trust the system that you are a part of, that you are building up? Why not call the police?
Yeah, exactly right. And that's what a prosecutor would say to anybody else. Okay, so if anybody else gets out of their car and starts breaking windows and stabbing somebody who might be having a medical emergency, right? He's not the person to make that decision. He may have had a medical emergency, and as far as we know, there's no evidence to show the alternative, right? I think he was taken to the hospital, and you said they didn't have any blood results.
Nope.
So you don't just get to start stabbing somebody.
It's all speculation. You can speculate the man was high behind the wheel or drunk behind the wheel, but there is no evidence to suggest that he was. All of it is speculation. And if we're now going to court based on, well, if you look at his history, probably was this, and if that's considered evidence, I mean, good Lord.
Right. And what's so interesting about this, obviously, I mean, the case is an interesting case because it's a prosecutor who seemingly snapped. And when I watched the video, it looked to me like his body language was he was just mad somebody hit his car, kind of a situation. Like he was just, irritated. I don't know if you read it that way.
I do. So if you actually look at Patrick Scruggs' history, and I think it's fair to point this out, because in my case they brought up my driving record. That was that's the dirt they had on me, that I had a couple of speeding tickets. Patrick Scruggs had he was doing over 20. Got a ticket for that. He was improper passing on the interstate. Wow, so he has a history of not driving well and being an aggressive driver. And if the defense is, Blake Sharp has a history of drugs and alcohol, well, this other guy, Patrick Scruggs, has a history of not driving so well and being very aggressive on the road. How long are we allow him to be on the road before he finishes the job the next time? If we're doing these speculation things, right?
Yes, and when he's prosecuting other people, or when state level prosecutors are prosecuting people, you don't see federal prosecutors prosecuting people for reckless driving or DUIs generally, unless it's on federal lands. But those would be aggravating factors. Okay, so for the state level prosecutor, if you've got a bad criminal record or a bad driving history and you're in a road rage incident where you're coming out and stabbing somebody allegedly, that's going to be used against you, and not something that a normal prosecution that's not on your team is going to look kindly at.
This is where I'm at. And these articles that are coming out, I think it was the Herald Tribune, Dan something rather wrote it today or yesterday about if you look at it from an angle, he brought up Blake Sharp's drug history, but not Patrick Scruggs' driving history. And these people, they protect their own. They do.
They do. And what's the other sickening part about this is that he was part of a prosecution team that was going after J6ers. They accused many J6ers of violent behavior, even though that was not in evidence at all. And the J6ers, okay, when they're sentenced, they go to prison for decades at a time. And this guy might walk free.
I think he will. And I really hate saying that. And half the reason I'm here tonight, Robin, is because I hope this reaches some people. I hope that that the state prosecutors get wind that we are talking about this, that we are watching this, and that we want to see justice unfold in the way that it unfolded for us. And injustice. Yeah. Maybe actual justice unfold in this situation.
Yeah, that would be nice. And I'm really glad that you're paying attention to it. And is anybody else really covering this in the mainstream media or
No,
any media?
it did some rounds. We had a couple million views when it first came out last year, but
Yeah.
it's gone very quiet since. But they shot at presidents, elections, things like this. There's other things that have
Yeah.
been going on.
Well, this trial's scheduled on the 10th, and you're going to be there. So we'll see if there's a plea deal. I mean, is this guy talking about a plea deal? Like, would he take, are there conversations about, probation officer? Are you seeing any of that or observing any of that?
Not yet, but the body language and the language in general using the courtroom is that they will reach a plea deal. The state is not fighting this at all. Any requests that his attorneys have made, they've been more than happy to oblige. Continuances, extra depositions. They actually had two depositions. Typically, it's just one. They've had two separate ones. So it seems like they're going above and beyond to accommodate Patrick Scruggs in whatever way he needs. So I think
Yeah.
they're going to reach a plea deal. I think it's going to be amicable for all parties other than Blake Sharp.
Yeah. And he'll just be the useful scapegoat, right? Who is just going to be this bad apple that they can do whatever they want to because who cares, which is a sick thing.
Yes. But again, I'm calling it now. I really do believe they are going to leverage his violation of probation, his current sentence, whatever fines he has. Like, listen, maybe these things go away. Maybe you're released from jail, but maybe your testimony should change. Maybe you were drunk that day. Maybe you were a threat on the road. Maybe you were trying to run over Patrick Scruggs and he acted in self-defense.
Yeah.
I think we're heading that direction.
And so today in court, they just were basically resetting the trial date.
They didn't reset the trial date at all. This was a second pretrial hearing because they were coming under new evidence, new facts. So they continued. The trial date, they didn't even argue to move or push whatsoever, neither the state nor the defense. And the judge even asked them, he's like, well, it seems like there's a lot of things going on right now. Do we need to push the trial date? Neither one of them attested to what the trial date currently was, which is indicative to me either the state is confident they're going to trial or they're taking a plea deal and they're trying to reach resolution before this happens.
Interesting. Yeah. So a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes that you're not privy to in the plea negotiations and the emails in the back rooms. They come out in court, kind of enter a bunch of stuff on the record, and they'll still work it out.
Yep. I think we'll see a plea deal reached within the next 2 weeks. I do. I think the story will get buried and there will be a prosecutor who is on video stabbing someone walking away.
With a probation deal, maybe unsupervised or
maybe some anger management classes.
Anger management.
Yeah.
I
I believe it's going to be that.
Different standards.
Yes.
Well, I'm really glad that you're keeping your eye on it because I do recall talking about it and we hadn't followed back up on it. So it's nice that you're on it. It's about what we expected. And this is a pattern that comes up, time and time again. Prosecutors protect themselves, cops protect them, people in power protect themselves. And unfortunately, it's happening right now.
Yeah. Well,
I know you're packing up and you're getting on the road. I wanted to ask if you have a minute or two just about, did you watch any Pam Bondi confirmation hearing stuff? I mean, we're just days away until Trump comes in.
I got the clips. I think we all see the clips, the reels, the 30 seconds, burn remarks. I did see Schiff falling asleep during the confirmation. That was nice.
Yep.
Oh God, what is that line from Usual Suspects? I think it's Kevin Spacey. The guys who are guilty because they fall asleep.
That was a great film. I need to see that
film.
Again.
Yeah. I've been critical on Pam Bondi for some of the practices she's had in the state of Florida. She is a red flag law enthusiast, and I'm a 2A absolutionist. So I've had some critiques of her positions on gun laws. I do know that Trump came out and said that he is going to remove the ATF's reach to ban pistol braces, which is fantastic because it's in common use. There are millions of these things already in the market that law-abiding citizens own. So maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it won't. I look forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting that you go right to that issue. I mean, she didn't get asked too much about that at the hearing. We covered the whole thing. I think it was like 6 hours. It didn't come up a whole lot. Some people were asking her about what she's going to do with the ATF and, will she support them and all, the gun stuff. But it wasn't as big an issue as like FISA was or Kash Patel was. They brought up Kash Patel multiple times, but the other thing they brought up was the pardons. And of course, we're all trying to gauge how this is going to work, what's going to be acceptable, not acceptable. I know Free State Will, has been really calling attention to a lot of this on X. And I think with good reason, because I do think he's right about this, that if they botch the pardon process at the beginning of this administration, if it turns into a 6-9 month thing, that is not going to feel good at all. So I think he came out with another post today earlier that Trump called into Bongino and is laying down some assurances, but just wanted to get your thoughts on that whole new chapter that's about to open.
So I love Free State Will. He's one of my favorite people. He's in the top 5 of my favorite J6ers. That guy is a gem.
Yeah.
I land at a different place on pardons than a lot of J6ers do, and a lot of influencers do that are in the MAGA mainstream influence world. I believe there should be pardons for nonviolent offenders. Day one, just we're done with this. Let's move forward. The ones that were charged with violence, I think we do need to do a case-by-case view of this. And I think that if you hit a cop, it's always bad. Don't hit cops. It's a bad look. Please don't. But you've already served enough time. Most of these people have served 3 or 4 years. Their sentences should be commuted. Done. We're done with this. My biggest concern with blanket pardons is that we sweep things under the rug and we don't have meaningful investigations. We don't actually look into how January 6th occurred, how it was allowed to occur. We don't look into why Capitol Police were firing munitions that they weren't authorized to fire into a crowd that was standing around singing the national anthem.
Yep.
My concern with the blanket pardon is we don't get any of that done, that we move past it. And you can't just move past these things because people have lost their marriages, their homes, their children, their livelihoods, their licenses. You can't just move past it. A pardon it's great on paper. It's an opportunity to shake the president's hand and say, thank you, I appreciate it 4 years later. But how are these people being restored? How do they get back to their lives? We don't answer that question with blanket pardons. We answer it with investigations. We answer it with committees. We answer it with exposing. Some people simply put their hand on the back of an officer's back and pat it and say, thank you for your service. And they got an assault charge that is a felony. And they serve time. They've lost everything because of it.
Yeah, I think everything you just laid out there was very reasonable and logical, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I agree that the punishment has been massive over the last 4 years. And so I think that in addition to that plus the due process problems of, about prosecuting and trying people in one of the bluest places in the whole country is very concerning. And so I think that there were violations that need to be remedied, but I'm with you. I don't want Ray Epps necessarily to get a pardon and to just be forgotten about, right? So anything that's blanket that doesn't allow us to investigate, even at the Proud Boys trial, those projectiles that were being shot into people's faces, right? That came up there, and that was discussed, but what they didn't allow was evidence of 8 other HSI agents who were there, right? Or I'm sorry, it was 8 FBI agents that they admitted came in. That was evidence that came into trial, but there were dozens of other HSI agents that never made it into testimony because the judges precluded them. So all of that needs to be exposed. And I think to your point about how do you put some of this back together, it's not about just forgetting it and moving on. It's about showing what actually happened. Like, what is the truth? So that the wives who left their husbands and vice versa can look at it and say, oh yeah, right, I was sold a lie by a propaganda government.
I'm concerned. It's history, right? Canon is written by the victors, and we won something here. But until we recanonize the historical event that is January 6th correctly and accurately, we don't really win anything. We don't. We don't get to talk. We don't get to explain the narrative in such a way that history will remember me for being a guy who just showed up to protest, who exercised his First Amendment rights to protest, to peacefully assemble. I need that. That is my win. And I think a lot of January 6ers they're tired. I've been done a lot longer than a lot of people. So maybe the reason that I seem to have this reasoning is because I have had time to process and move on. But it's a short-sighted win to just get a pardon and move on. You need your long-term win. And that is, how are my grandkids going to view me? How are my great-grandkids going to view me? How is the next 100 years of American history going to look at this event and say, this is what happened.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'm very hopeful that we get people like Pam Bondi, who, right, maybe despite some of her faults on some of the gun stuff, we get Kash Patel, right? If they do declassify some of these things and open up investigations, I think we'll be shocked and disgusted to see actually what went down there. I mean, we've got a pretty good idea of what went down because we covered the trial and all the videos, but I think the public, it's hard for them to wrap their heads around the idea that there were 5 Proud Boys on trial, but they admitted that there were 8 FBI CHS informants. So there's more federal agents than there were defendants that they admitted. And then the defense had 50 plus others that they identified from other, other
Yes.
entities. So we need to know that. The public needs to know that. And I'm glad we have a shot at it.
I think so. Again, I think the only people who really understand what happened that day are the ones that's affected directly. And everyone else gets the Cliff Notes, gets the, the MSNBC edited version that was produced for the J6 committee and blasted everywhere. That's what they get. And I keep telling people, look, you can be vindicated, you can be pardoned, you can be justified, but until history speaks well of you, we're not winning yet. So don't be so short-sighted. You've been here long enough. You've been here too long, in my opinion. But if you waited this long, you've been through this much, don't quit at the end. You need to keep pushing.
Do you have any take or position on potential prosecutions for any of these people? Liz Cheney, I mean, I've been ranting that she's violating 1512B, obstructing, suborning perjury, all sorts of stuff.
Yep. Didn't they destroy evidence and documents relating to the J6 committee investigation?
Totally.
Isn't that the exact 1512C that they prosecuted a couple hundred January 6ers for? Creating them all to be felons?
The House of the Administration Committee or whatever, because he did it, they're allowed to do it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, very
that makes
interesting.
sense. If we're going to prosecute anyone, I think, Matt Graves is definitely on the list.
Yeah.
I think
U.S. attorney from D.C., right?
Yeah, I would love to see. I would love to see Adam Kinzinger brought back. I would love to see Mark Milley brought back and have to discuss his communications with Nancy Pelosi and why the National Guard wasn't deployed. There were phone calls that came through, and the National Guard was there the day before. They were posted everywhere. And I remember walking towards the Capitol, and I was talking to my jiu-jitsu coach, and I was like, man, I wonder if they have live ammunition rounds or they're using rubber bullets today. But I knew that walking up that this might be a dangerous event because I saw the National Guard the day before. They weren't there, and it was the most confusing thing to me. Where is all the security?
Yeah.
We're talking about a couple dozen cops that have formed a semicircle towards the western face of the building. Where is everyone? How did this even happen? So I would like to know. I would like to have some actual answers.
Me too. And I think we're getting more and more info very slowly dripping out. We've got new reports on the pipe bomber and how that was a giant distraction and how they moved the bike racks around. And
yeah, the pipe bomber to me is one of the most interesting things about all of this. I honestly believe they thought it was going to be worse than it was. I think they believed that people were going to bring firearms. I think they believed that people were going to actually engage in actual. Again, we are the most armed nation in the world, and one side has more guns than the other. And none of that happened. There were a bunch of people who were just careening about and walking through velvet ropes.
yeah,
I think they wanted it to be bigger, the pipe bomb, everything else. I think they had plans for multiple attacks throughout the city that night. I do. I think they would have attributed to Proud Boys, the MAGA movement. I think the Patriot Act 2.0 they passed through. I think they wanted something much worse than what they passed. And because we didn't, and because January 6th didn't occur the way that they had planned it to occur, we didn't get the full scale of that.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Well, look, I know you're packing up. You're going to the inauguration tomorrow. You're heading over to D.C.
I am. I'll be on a Timcast tomorrow night, and then I am leading a tour through the Capitol on Saturday at noon. I'm bringing a bunch of hats to give away. It's got my little insignia on them, but we're meeting at the Supreme Court at noon on Saturday. So if you would like to go on my Adam Tours the Capitol with Friends tour, that would come show up. It'd be a good time.
That'll be amazing. And so the best place for people to follow you is on X. You're at Lectern Leader.
That's correct. That's the only place I'm at currently. So that's where you can find me.
Amazing. And anything else you're working on? Were you working on the nonprofit?
Yes, so I have a 501c3. The website should go live next couple of weeks. We wanted to wait until the first of the year because of audits, because I'm getting audited no matter what. So I wanted a new fiscal year to start. So we'll have hats, t-shirts, beanies, lecterns, all for sale. And then we will be giving those, we'll be donating a lot of money to kids who have parents who are in prison, and just trying to take care of people, one lectern at a time.
Amazing. Well, Adam, man, I'm really grateful that you exist, that you are who you are, and that you're staying on this case and speaking out, man, because I think it's really integral in the process of rewriting this history for the truth that it is. And without you, without Free State Will, without many of the J6ers, Jacob Chansley, and people we've talked to, and others that we haven't, we can't do that, right? We can't do that. It's just going to be their fake garbage narrative. And so we got some work to do, but I'm grateful that you're out there doing it, man. So.
Hey, same to you, Guy. I appreciate everything you do as well. It takes all of us, all of our voices.
We're working on it, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I want to wish you safe travels to the inauguration, and we'll see you on Timcast tomorrow. Be safe out there. Stay warm.
Do my best. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. See you, brother. All right, my friends, that is Adam Johnson, Lectern guy. And so let me share with you where you can follow him so that you can give him your love and your support. And of course, he's going to be over on, what did I just do here? I'm all discombobulated. So the Lectern guy on X, let's pull this up. This is his account. And so make sure you go give him a follow right here. Doing amazing work. He's got his nonprofit. And let's see, what the heck did I do? Are we still streaming? Hopefully we're still streaming. I think I might have just moved stuff around. What did I do? Are we still live here, my friends? All right, sorry. Trying to figure out what I did with my main screen. We're still here? All right, good. That's good, because we got Garrett, who's coming on in a minute. Where the heck did this go? All right, 1 second. I'm all discombobulated. No. All right, I got to clean up some screens. We're still live. This is a technical difficulty. My apologies. However, we're going to have Garrett Ziegler here at any minute. And so we got a little time to kill. And what happened with the space Starlink? What happened with Starlink? Or SpaceX? We still live here? All right. How are we still live? Where's my screen at? This is the weirdest thing that's happening. I don't even know how we're live right now. There it is. I found it. All right, we're back. All right, I found it. All right, we're live. All right, that's good. I found the screen. Okay, so good. We are still live. All right, so let me share with you where Lectern Leader is, and then we're going to be joined by Garrett Ziegler any minute, and I'm excited to talk to him too. But Lectern Leader. All right, so you know who he is, this guy right here. Okay, the booster worked, but they lost the Starship. Ugh! Dang it. All right, we're back. They lost the Starship? Like what happened? It exploded? All right, while we're waiting for Garrett, let's see. What's here? Spaceship, Starship. Come on, Elon. We lost it? Oh, this is live right now. But you probably can't hear the audio right now, but that's what it looks like. They caught the booster? Dang. Man, that's pretty cool. All right, so we got Garrett. Let me make sure he is joining us here in a second. And we're excited to talk to him. Make sure he is still good. All right, so he's joining us. All right, so Garrett is joining us. We're going to let him get settled in. And then we'll be talking to him. But let me just explain who Garrett Ziegler is in case you're unfamiliar. You can go follow their work over at Marco Polo 501c3 on X. Garrett's a good friend of the show. We've talked to him many times because he's a genius And he also is the author and the purveyor of the report on the Biden laptop. Marco Polo, USA.org is where I got my copy. And if you go through it, you're going to see just all sorts of evidence on the Biden crime family and their nefariousness that has been in existence for quite some time. But this week, we had some new developments. We had a new report that was released by Special Counsel David Weiss. And if you are familiar with David Weiss, he was the U.S. attorney who was working on the Hunter Biden prosecution in a couple locations. And we saw him try to give Hunter Biden a sweetheart deal, basically a non-prosecution agreement that would have made all the criminal charges go away. Then we had the whistleblowers pop out. We had a lot of pressure on David Weiss. We had Garrett's work, Marco Polo's work, and the whole house of cards started to come crumbling down. During their plea deal, Hunter got ornery because he was not going to have a guaranteed promise of no additional charges coming down the line, and they botched the whole deal. Then, as we now know, the whole idea is that he was going to be pardoned regardless. So he didn't have to take a plea deal because his daddy was the president and he was always going to be pardoned. But that doesn't mean that we wouldn't get a report from the special counsel, David Weiss, who was appointed to investigate him. And so that report has now come out, and it is short and lacking. And so we want to understand why that is. And so we brought in our good friend, Garrett Ziegler, Marco Polo USA, to join us. Garrett, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on. This is my favorite program.
Man, you're my favorite researcher. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. And that 27-pager, as you alluded to, it's a complete whimper. That saying that countries don't die with a bang, they die with a whimper. I think it was T.S. Eliot who said that. This report is a whimper. He had one final chance to redeem himself and do something honorable, and he totally punted. It's a disgrace. But we can go through it, and that's why I love your program so much, is that you focus on the source material. And I can tell your audience precisely what lie he's going for at which particular area of the report.
Yeah, and it's not long, like you said. I mean, we're used to other reports like the Robert Hur report on Joe Biden, which is massive. I think even the report on Trump came out. I don't know how long that one was, but it's over hundreds of pages, right? It's 100+ pages.
Mm-hmm. And critical to this backdrop is that Weiss conducted an interview with the House investigators and some members in November of 2023, and he punted there too. But the issue with that interview is that he said certain questions that he couldn't go into would be addressed in this report. Well, now that it's January 13th, 2025, when the report was released, and he didn't address anything they asked about. So, Hur spent, I think, 85 pages, and you'll know this word because you're an attorney, a declination explanation. This is where we got the phrase elderly man with a sympathetic, probably a sympathetic old man with a poor memory. That is right. What Hur described what a potential jury could see in Joe. And we didn't get any of that with David. In fact, that tweet, you pulled up our Twitter, the tweet that we made about this, I'm still calling it Twitter, even though I call it X. I'm still calling the individual post a tweet. That tweet went into the final sentence of this 27-page report. And it states that it would be, quote, inappropriate to expound upon any additional charges because of Hunter's pardon. That makes zero sense. It's actually more appropriate now that Hunter is not going to be charged on any conduct federally, from January 1st, 2014 to December 1st of 2024. There's even more of a need to provide truth because justice is out the window. The least we can get is truth. Truth is a lower bar than justice. So David had it come down from heaven. The heavens parted, and he had an opportunity to go after and subpoena the royalty of Delaware, the royal family of Delaware. And he did this. He had this opportunity for 6 years. And hilariously, that the appendix to this report that you have on the screen, it's 210 pages, give or take, and it's all already documents that have been public. You've gone through some of the documents he put in the appendix. So it's absolutely pathetic. That phrase, don't pee on me and tell me it's raining. Yes. He didn't even provide us an investigative document we're on the outside, right? We have his laptop and other things that we find in the public domain. Weiss has subpoena power. He's sitting on mountains of investigative case files, and he couldn't even put one of them in the appendix. There's not even a crumb for us. All he did was go through the public dockets of Hunter's cases and Smirnoff's cases in California and Delaware, respectively, or Delaware and California, respectively, and posted the already public opinions as if Merrick Garland isn't even aware of them yet. And this letter and this report is addressed to Merrick Garland because that's what the regulations require. Right. So read it as if you're Merrick Garland. You already know all of this. And so it's pathetic in that sense, too, that there may be some investigative files that Merrick, because he's not in the weeds on everything, right? He doesn't look over every response to a search warrant, that he may know that the public doesn't even know. But the public knew, the public following this closely knew every single item in this report.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it is so short because I just pulled up the report on Trump from Jack Smith, just volume 1, and it's 174 pages. It is 136 pages to the conclusion. So there is an appendix there, but it's 136 pages of Jack Smith, who would have a similar argument towards a prosecutorial impediment, right? So let's say, for example, David Weiss says, I can't prosecute Hunter because he's got a pardon. Therefore, I can't do my work and explain anything. Okay, well, Jack Smith can't prosecute Trump because he's going to be the president, right? There's a similar prosecutorial impediment, but Jack Smith ran his mouth for over 100 pages and explained exactly how it worked. So why can't David Weiss do that?
Well, I couldn't have said it better than you. And the only thing I have to add is that the difference between Weiss and Jack Smith is cowardice or not. We both know that Jack Smith is corrupt as the day is long, and he's been overturned by SCOTUS 9-0. But if we want to be completely fair to Jack Smith, he's many things, but he's not a coward. He's terrible and he's corrupt. But Weiss is what C.S. Lewis would call a man without a chest. And Weiss is on page 9 of our dossier, page 12, right here, him and Bill Barr. They both slow walk the investigation of Hunter, meaning the Hunter investigation started officially in September of 2018. So we have 6+ years, not 6.5, 6+ years of case files. And he didn't put a single one of them in the appendix. So 175 pages by Smith. And then, by the way, because you and I can accept each separate idea as either true or false, some of the stuff with regard to declination in the Her report, I agree with. I don't agree with every declination explanation, meaning I think Joe could have been charged, and especially the declination discussion about Mark Zwanitzer. I brought up that guy on your program before. Your audience knows of him. He's the ghostwriter who knowingly received and stored classified intel, deleted the audio recordings after the announcement of the special counsel. He should have at least been charged on obstruction of justice. I don't agree with that declination charge, especially, but at least Her had the testicular fortitude to put it in writing. That's the essence of being a human being, that you can use your reason to make arguments and put it out there. And if somebody accepts it, fine. If they don't agree, they, as a sentient human being, can make arguments back. We don't even get that with Weiss. I know I'm animated, but this guy may be the worst figure in this entire saga. Leslie Wolf, who we've talked about for minutes on end on this program, she is terrible, but at least the buck didn't stop with her. the buck stopped with Weiss, both when he was the Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney and the special counsel. And I disagree with Chuck Grassley, by the way. This is news. This transpired in the last 24 hours. Chuck Grassley said he's not going to call in Weiss for a hearing. Well, the folks on the House side better get ready then, because this is the archetypical need a time for a hearing. In fact, Durham and Hur had more of a argument to not show up for a hearing because they actually produced long-winded and thorough reports. I don't agree with much in any of them, but at least they did work. Weiss and his team are phoning it in. They're lazy. So in addition to cowardice, they have laziness on their side. Robert, a 10th grader, without the take the footnotes off of this 27 pages, a 10th grader could have put this thing together. A very adroit, precocious 10th grader could have wrote this report. That's how basic it is.
Well,
they
you know David Weiss. You know David Weiss better than I do. You've been following him for a long time.
We wrote about his daddy getting charged. You know, his daddy went to the clink. Do you know that?
I did not know that.
David Weiss's father was an IRS agent. We discovered this and got the exclusive to Daily Mail. He was an IRS agent who took bribes in the 80s, spent about 3 years in the clink.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. I'll send you if you have your browser, you don't have to put it up right away. But if you want to find it, just go to Daily Mail, tax, David Weiss, father. If you find that article right now, put it up on the screen. I'd love your audience to be able to see it. We broke this story, and I got to give a shout out to Linda, who's a volunteer of ours. We love Ancestry.com. We were doing a family tree, which is one of the first things we do on any deep research subject. We were doing a family tree of this guy, and his name's Meyer Weiss, took $200K in 1980s money from a perfume executive in Philly, and then ended up pleading out. But yeah, his name's Meyer. And by the way, David's law school tuition was paid for with this money. So David's career is owed to dirty money that his daddy was bribed with, and that's why he hates us so much. They've never responded to any emails of ours. I sent them all a note on Tuesday saying you ought to be ashamed of yourself. At least people who put theirs, even if I disagree with somebody, at least they're man enough to put something in writing. This was a disgrace. So Grassley, for no reason whatsoever, maybe he's like, well, I want to focus on the Trump first 100 days. Fine, call in David in June. Set a date. I don't care if it's June 28th. Set a date for David Weiss, Leslie Wolf, and Leo Wise. Those three of everybody else, they have to be called in front of the House. Jim Jordan has to do this. The report is underwhelming. Of course, in the lamestream press, they're saying David Weiss criticizes President Biden. Well, of course he is. Biden's a crook. That's
right.
Such a low bar, right? Of course Joe's a liar. You and I have known that, and his people in Delaware have known that for 50 years. What we want from this report, and I know I'm being loquacious today especially, what we want in this report, Robert, is stuff that only David can provide. You and I have limited visibility from the outside. Sure, we had somebody within JP Morgan leak us 5 SARs, and that was glorious, and they lost their mind, and that's how I met you, because you covered the SARs that we released, and we righteously watermarked them to hell. Because it was so insane. From JP Morgan, it was inside their anti-money laundering division. Biden's attorney was madder than a horned up woman's skirt about it. But David is sitting on a mountain of evidence, and that's what we need from David. We need him to give us things only he is privy to. The one thing that the public didn't know about for sure that's in this report is a footnote. It's a footnote about an interview they conducted with Kevin Morris, who's also suing us. So the special counsel's office did do an interview with Kevin Morris. That's in one of the footnotes. If you do a OCR search in the 27-pager, you'll see Morris. You might want to do that. But again, they were investigating Morris for campaign finance violations because Morris gave that loan. Yeah, footnote. I should know this off my head. What number footnote is that? There's 2 of them.
That's 52, 54, transcribed interview. See, the transcribed interview with Kevin Morris.
Yeah, see, that. By the way, that's a legitimate footnote. That's what Hur's report looks like. That's what Durham's report looks like. We got crumbs from Weiss. We only got a couple of those, right?
Yeah.
Like with the Russiagate stuff, you and I, we'd be digging into these. That is huge intel in 52 and 54.
Right.
Right? So all we get is that. Come on, it's not even a whimper. The word whimper is stronger than that. He is despicable. And because of the pardon, Hunter cannot be, what's driving the litigation right now in the SD Florida with Walty Nada and Carlos de Oliveira with Volume 2 is they could be prejudiced, correct, by the release of Volume 2. Hunter doesn't have that. So it's even more appropriate for Weiss to do this. He's saying Weiss is taking the position that Carlos and Walt's attorney is rightfully taking, that, hey, our indictment hasn't been dismissed yet. Why are you releasing Volume 2 when it's about our conduct? That's prejudicial to the jury pool and due process. Hunter there are costs for the pardon. Hunter has relinquished those rights. He can't be prejudiced because he ain't going to be charged federally. So the most nuanced argument that Weiss could make, and he won't do this because he's not as smart as you and me, is that Hunter could still be charged at the state level, which is true. But the only state that's plausible in is Arkansas, and the statute of limitations are barely running out. I think there's like 6 months to a year. All the felonies with drug, sex, and business in Connecticut, New York, California, all those are going to be covered away because of the blue state prosecutors.
Yeah, and so I think the other conversation that people were having on that point was, can he be subpoenaed to testify in front of a congressional hearing? Have you looked into that?
He absolutely can. And I think that with Hunter, he's fighting so many battles right now legally. That's why he's probably trying to claim his insurance for the art paintings. He's suing us. He's suing the IRS. He's suing Patrick Byrne. He has his hands full with civil litigation. And I think that their willingness to fight on these subpoenas. Now, we're totally in the clear with document production. The only in terms of the Fifth Amendment, the only question is whether there's a testimony component, that if he was pardoned, does that relinquish his Fifth Amendment testimony component? He'll argue that he could still be charged at the state level, which is true. Yeah. But there is no, that's why, for example, I gave the documents to the January 6th committee. Not because I believe they were legitimate, but because it's much easier to just give them the documents than fight it, right? And I pled the Fifth, meaning there's a difference qualitatively, as you know, between a subpoena to testify and a subpoena ducis tecum, I think, right, for documents. And the ducis tecum ones are a lot easier to comply with. That's what, by the way, how we got those SARs, because J.P. Morgan received a subpoena ducis tecum and then submitted those SARs in response to that.
Yeah, I remember that. So when it comes to David Weiss and this report, do you think, is he a partisan? Like, do you think he's botching this or underselling this because he's supporting the Bidens, or is he just a coward who just doesn't want to challenge them?
Well, he is a partisan, but he is partisan, but the party he's a member of is the Uniparty. Because he is a lot like Rod Rosenstein. David Weiss has been in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware for about 17 years. He was a career line prosecutor there for years, and then was liked by both Democrats and Republicans. So he is a partisan, but he's a unit partisan. So I don't, what I believe in? I believe that David Weiss believes in David Weiss. And at the end of the day, he's a careerist, and he's going to make the least risky decisions and judgments possible, like Rod Rosenstein. Both of those men are very similar. They always want to be the last one in the boat. Imagine, or like that show Survivor with Jeff Probst. You know that show Survivor? It's been on for 25 years.
Yeah.
There's a log rolling game where you're trying to stay on the log, right, and to be the last one standing. That's the analogy I use for David Weiss and Rod Rosenstein. They just want to stay on the log. Yeah. And that means they believe in nothing, right? Justice and prudence would require that Weiss produce a 300-page report going into, why did you let the 2015 and 2014 statute of limitations run? That's a big, in the words of Joe Biden, that's a big effing deal. Remember when they signed the ACA and he said that in Barack's ear? Yep. That's a big effing deal. Why did you fire Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler off the investigative team after they blew the whistle? That's a big effing deal. None of that is answered. None of that is answered. And when they call, by the way, when they call, if the House members really want to do a job here, and most of them don't, but if they really want to do a good job, what they'll do is they'll have a 5-member panel. You put Shapley and Ziegler in the middle and have them on the outer sides flanked by Leo Weiss, Leslie Wolf, and David Weiss. That, if I were in the House, and I could totally do it, but I'm not going to right now, that's what I would call it. That would cause the most palm sweating possible. And palm sweating usually is a good indication of somebody's being forced to tell the truth. Right now, David Weiss is just praying that these Republicans don't get tough and get strong. And he wants to go off into the sunset and be in retirement. If they had a 5-person panel, it'd be great. I'd be in the audience, obviously. But Leslie Wolf, again, punted on all the tough questions. And by the way, the House just released these interviews yesterday evening on the judiciary's website. So everybody listening right now and viewing, they can go to the website for the House committee and look up Weiss's interview, Leslie Wolf's. A couple of these have been released, and you and I went through them, but a couple of them haven't. Raisha Hawley from the FBI. Everybody can go to our site, Marco Polo 501c3, not only to get a copy of the book, but also to look at directories. You and I on your program went through these 4 directories we put together. We have a list of over 100 federal employees who were involved in the Biden investigation. Over 100. All of them have to go. And from the outside, that's what I'm going to be focused on these first 100 days. Peppering the new political appointees and the cabinet officials with the names of bad actors. We have to have individualized, personalized accountability.
Yeah, can you recap, just for people who are unfamiliar, how horrendous some of these things were? I mean, you mentioned Leslie Wolf, you mentioned Leo Wise, and the example that we reference regularly here is how, I think it was Leslie Wolf, right, who called Hunter Biden's lawyers to warn them that they were going to execute a search warrant on a storage facility. They emptied the storage facility and then checked it out the next day, I guess, right? So it's like the DOJ, right? These are prosecutors who are warning the defense team about pending prosecutions. It's corruption through and through. And so your example, the idea that you'd have the 2 whistleblowers who busted all these people sitting in the same panel with all those people who were involved in that corruption, it would be epic.
It would be epic. It made me, one of the moments in 2024 I was most proud of, or it might have been 23, was Tony Bobulinski sitting next to Lev Parnas. And Lev Parnas tried to lean over and tell him something. And I won't cuss here on your program, but Tony's like, don't you ever effing talk to me. We're not in the same league. He said that straight to his face. It was glorious because it's so rare, even for males, to have that kind of courage. Like, don't be chummy with me. Now, Weiss would not do that. Weiss wouldn't even look Shapley and Ziegler in the eyes. You know why? Because he knows they're telling the truth. Not a single line of theirs has been debunked. They shared so many documents from the investigation. Imagine this. Imagine none of the whistleblowers came forward and we still got that kind of report from David Weiss. We would have 0 investigative files. I remember I sat here on your program in September of 2023. I remember because I spoke in Malvern, Pennsylvania that night, 10 minutes from Kevin Morris's hometown. And we were going through the exhibits that had just been posted to Congressman Smith's committee website. Golnora, the pimp from LA. We were going through these case files. Now, I think they redacted a little bit too much, but nevertheless, I was like a kid in a candy store. And it was totally legal. You know, they're suing Lowell for $10 million. Lowell said they illegally leaked stuff. It was voted on by a committee of the U.S. House. Every single exhibit was voted on by a House committee, and it passed. So Lowell should lose his townhouse and everything. If that goes to trial, I'm going to be in there in that trial every single day, even if I go back into the admin. Because Lowell has acted so dishonorably through this. He is a total snake. We have a deposition with him next month. I already did a 9-hour one because, you know, I was the witness for the mother of Hunter Biden's child in the Arkansas child support case.
I do recall that. And you're saying Abby Lowell, he's being sued by the whistleblowers.
He is, and it's glorious because they got him. They know that they followed the letter of the law. Why? Because their attorneys helped write it. Jason Foster and Tristan Levitt worked in the Senate when the whistle blew. Yes.
They came on, and they spoke about that, and I'm remembering all the pieces here. So there is recourse, and You're being sued.
Yes.
What's the status
By
of
two
that?
men. Our trial with Hunter is set for September 6th of 2025 in Los Angeles in federal court. To look at the docket, help fundraise, it's fightbiden.org. You can't get it much easier than that. He's suing us under a hacking statute. Problem is, for Hunter, for us to have done what Hunter alleges we did, we would have had to break into the FBI evidence logger in the Wilmington field office. All we did was get a copy of the data that he no longer has rights to. He's just asserting that it's his data. Right. It's just Biden-type legal alchemy. Why is it Hunter's data? Well, because I said it is. This is absolute man-child behavior, and only a firm as disgusting as Winston and Strawn would put their name on this.
Have you seen any changes after the election? I mean, have you noticed an energy shift in the legal cases? Do you think that, judges might be less inclined to cover up for the Biden family now that Trump's in charge? You notice anything like that?
Not towards us, because they are really mad at what we did. Again, nobody has challenged them like this before. They dropped their case against Rudy, and luckily Rudy settled the defamation case. But they dropped the case against Rudy. They dropped the case against Fox News. But we have, I think because I was the witness for the mother of Hunter's child, Jill and Joe and Melissa, his wife, are so mad at me, unjustifiably, because I haven't told a lie about them, right? They'll always call you a bigot or a hater, but they never call you a liar. It's very interesting, right? So nothing stopped for them, because remember, Hunter is one of the most protected men in America. He is what the Chi-Coms call a princeling, and we embarrassed the princeling. And in their warped view, when you embarrass their princeling, you should not be allowed to go inside of a courtroom. That's what Melissa told me to my face and called me an effing Nazi. And you should not be able to just do what you want to do. You have to be the victim of lawfare. We've spent $400,000 on lawyers. That's a new house. Even in LA, it's a crappy one in LA, but still. But go to fightbiden.org. All your viewers can go look at the docket. If you watch this program, you're like me and like Robert, and you like to look at the actual arguments. They're just asserting that it's Hunter's data, even though there are no cognizable facts in his complaint that show that it's his data. He's just saying it is. in the judicial system in the Central District of California, where your Hunter's daddy appointed the judge in our case. And we filed a 55-page recusal motion like Trump did with Juan Merchan, because the judge gave $2,000 to Joey's presidential campaign. Gosh, by the way, Hernan Merchan's ex-wife is Joe's Secretary of Labor, Julie Sue. It's insanity. But Hernan Merchan, we call him Hernan Merchan, but Hernan Vera got to the bench 2 months before our case was brought, and he was randomly assigned our case. When we submitted the recusal motion, our motion was randomly assigned to Monica Almadani, another judge who was appointed by Joe and confirmed through the Senate only 1 month previous. So the person, by the way, they were both CEO of the same left-wing La Raza affiliated nonprofit called Public Counsel, who had Kamala speak at their winter gala. So we're just getting totally railroaded. This federal court's a joke. I mean, the only way I'll show up is if it goes to trial. I can't even step foot in that place. It's a total den. We're not getting a fair shake. Yeah. So we'll see about Kevin. We might settle the Morris case, but because the one we care about is Hunter. Hunter cannot get away with this. If he's going to get a pardon, he cannot get away with the lawfare. Morris is irrelevant now. The only way Morris becomes relevant again is if they charge him for the campaign finance violations.
Yeah, and what's happening with Morris and these paintings that just got torched? We saw an article, I think, from the New York Post that his storage location got burnt to the ground, and there's millions of dollars of paintings that are now missing. And we've talked about this many times, but we've seen some of these paintings. Some of them, I don't think he had anything to do with, but the ones that the New York Times published in 2019 looked like COVID and mucus, and they were being sold for $85,000 to $500,000, and now they're all gone.
It's laughable, first of all. Everybody watching this and listening to this should just get a good laugh that this guy, the crackhead who can't speak a word of Ukrainian, who served on the board of a Cypriot domiciled energy company, is now an artist. blowing through straws on Yupo paper. Give me a break. His art is hotel art. It's not terrible, but it's probably worth at most $800 a pop. His art is the art that the Hilton Garden Inn, which I like, by the way, puts on the wall when you go to the bathroom. You know how most restrooms, there's, well, in a sane world, women on the left, men on the right. Hunter's paintings are that which resides on the wall between the male and female restroom. What they're going to do is a funny grift here. He's going to appraise them at the price that Morris paid for it. But Morris was just paying it through, because art is a vehicle for money laundering most of the time, because you just subjectively create the value of it. So Morris pays Hunter $875 for some art. Within that storage unit, they're going to multiply that number of paintings by that price that Morris paid. And one of our researchers on the team joked that they're going to, you can actually get insured, I think, up to 150%. So it'll be even more than the value. So he could even try to get 150% of the value. And the value is, they're going to try to say the value is set by the price that Morris paid on the open market. It is astounding. And we'll be all over this. We're going to try to get the company that insured the unit here. But again, it's all for protecting this guy. Everybody can go read BidenReport.com. That is the free e-reader. But this guy is probably one of the most protected people in the history of the United States of America. Even if you hate politics and you're listening to this, sociologically, we'll probably never see this again. Because we can both agree that Jared Kushner is probably up to some corrupt stuff, but nobody is going to find Jared Kushner doing this. Right. That's what makes the story so nuts. Jared Kushner actually knows how to operate an Excel sheet. He knows about real estate. Hunter didn't know anything about anything. He didn't know about energy. The only thing he knew how to do is talk to people. That was his entire work. When he was a lobbyist, it was taking a couple calls with online gambling companies and Jesuit universities.
And facilitating access to his father, who was powerful the entire time.
Precisely. And the key lie that your audience is aware of, but some people may not be, is that Hunter Biden was a private citizen. That is false. Hunter Biden was appointed to the board of Amtrak by President George W. Bush. And when they were considering his nomination on the floor of the Senate, Tom Carper, Joe helped him get his job. He's the retired senator from Delaware as of 10 days ago. Tom Carper said one of Hunter's qualifications is that he rode on trains a lot growing up. That was literally one of his qualifications. Yeah. So by that logic, every poor black in Brooklyn who takes the Long Island Railroad is qualified to sit on the board of Amtrak then. That's how pathetic this guy is. He's been doing this kind of stuff for 2 decades.
Right. And arguably running the White House over the last 4. Who knows who else has been in charge there?
He was in the Oval last night for one of the most pathetic. Joe, I think, has the most pathetic presidency since Herbert Hoover. Because I'm fair and historical. I think it was as bad as Herbert Hoover. So during his farewell, when he talks about the tech oligarchy, even though he just gave Soros and everybody else some medals, he talked about paying their fair share. And he got your fail son, right, who didn't pay taxes on $2 million, sitting right there with his foreign wife who he married after 5 days of knowing her. It is out of this world, the gaslighting. He should have taken his eyes away from the camera and said, that includes you too, Hunter, right? If you can't run your own family, don't try to run our national family. Joe can't run his own family. His daughter's strung out. Hunter's a total failure. He's sleeping with Hallie. Even the daughter-in-law is on crack cocaine. I mean, what a mess. What are you telling us about paying our taxes? Your own family can't pay their taxes, right? And by the way, fair liberals have written this. The leftists are gone. There are a couple of fair liberals who recognize this is a total joke. One of them is Barack Obama's biographer, David Garrett, who named our book the 2023 Book of the Year in the British magazine The Spectator. David Garrett wrote, I have it here, if you want to give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
David Garrett wrote a 1,700-page biography of Barack Obama. It's called Rising Star. This is David Garrett. He released this in 2017. It recently got a lot of press because it's the one where he found the letters of Barack's letters to his girlfriends fantasizing about gay sex. So it got a lot of views after Larry Sinclair was on Tucker Carlson's show. But David Garrow, the author of this book, by the way, this doesn't even cover Barack's presidency. It stops in 2008, right? So it's the making of Barack Obama. But David Garrow, the author of this book, said our book was the 2023 book of the year. And I know I'm hawking it right now, but I'm so proud of that. David Garrow has been, this is why, by the way, nobody talked about it when it was released in 2017, because they thought it was going to be a hagiography. And he ended up telling the truth, and all the leftists were like, what the hell, man? This was, he had a couple hours in the Oval with Barack for this. So he had it was a legitimate bio. He had probably 5 hours in the Oval on the couch with Barack.
Wow.
And he ended up telling the truth, and all these leftists were like, well, I'm sorry, man, but you're not going to do your talk at Politics and Prose now. But that guy, the fair guy who could see this from a mile away, I mean, the person who has to be the most ecstatic over the past 3 months is Amy Carter. That the pipsqueak daughter of Jimmy, who got kicked out of Brown for smoking dope. She's got to be so pleased with this. Jimmy is no longer looked at as the worst president in modern history, right? This peanut farmer from Georgia, the outsider, Joe now takes that from them. And they are so glad to give that up. And now, I don't even know if he'll have, speaking of oligarchs, I don't even know if Joe will have enough oligarchs to build his presidential library. There's a very strong possibility where that federal oligarchy teat dries up. And Joe won't get his library in Greenville, Delaware. There's also a chance Joe dies in his sleep in March.
Yeah, he's not looking good out there. We certainly don't want that to happen, but he's not looking good. He's barely hanging on for the last couple of days of his presidency. But
can't come soon enough.
I know we're so excited for that. I know you're going to the inauguration, right, in DC?
Yes, sir. Marco Polo, the other two board members, Jim Clark and Brennan Shaddles, are being recognized along with me. We're going to get a bronze mini Trump statue. It'll be awesome. The date on Saturday at the Patriot Awards for this book. But on the 19th, a 2-story bronze Trump statue is getting unveiled. It's going to be amazing. Have you seen this? It's like 22 foot tall, and it's going to be traveling the country like the Liberty Bell did in 1976. It's going to be insane. Seen this. And I'm going to be near the. Yes, I'll send you the Twitter post URL. Maybe you can put it in the description of the video. But I'll be out there. I'll be right below the platform on Monday. I'll be freezing my keister off, but my wife and I will be out there along with the other board members of Marco Polo. Amazing. And I hope to come back if and when on your program, if and when they get Weiss to testify. He's got to do it. And I don't know why Grassley made that statement. He shouldn't have made that statement. If the Senate's not going to do it, nothing's stopping the House. Jim Jordan has been the toughest on Weiss and demanded the truth from him so far. So we'll keep at it. But
what are you thinking about the new administration and how these confirmation hearings are going? Are you seeing anything out of Pam Bondi? Do you like Kash Patel? What are you thinking about Ratcliffe going to the CIA? Do you think they'll do another 51 letter with him over there? What are your thoughts on all the latest we've seen this week?
Well, I've had a lot of thoughts. I'm pleased with a couple of the cabinet picks. I'm an elderly curmudgeon man stuck in a 28-year-old's body. So I'm pretty tough grader, and I really like the Tulsi pick. I really like the Hegseth pick. I really like Chris Wright at Energy. I think he's underrated. I think Chris Wright will really get gas prices to $2. That's what we want, $2 gas across the nation. That may be tricky in California, but we should see $2 gas in Phoenix by 2026. There's no reason we can't have that. Chris Wright at Energy is a good pick, and then Kash, of course. But I think Kash's long-term goal, if I may be so bold, is to phase out the FBI, right? We're not crazy people. The left is crazy. We don't think we can shut down the FBI in March. That's ridiculous. But Kash's goal should be over a presidential term to phase out the FBI, give half of its budget and responsibilities and authorities to the state police forces and then the U.S. Marshals. The U.S. Marshal Service, if it got more money and men, could do what the FBI does. We don't need an FBI. The U.S. Marshals could totally take over. The FBI should not be doing half of the stuff it's doing. And I just heard over the past hour that they're suiciding their DEI office, which is a great thing for the country. But I think they're only doing that at the headquarters. What we need to keep their feet to the fire on is these 94 field offices that are like individual cancerous pores on the American Republic all over. So I want every single field office to get rid of DEI. We don't believe in diversity in the United States. It's in our national motto, right? What do we believe in the U.S.? Unity. Right? We want unity. We want blacks and whites and everybody else to get along and get together and to love each other. But diversity cannot be a value of ours. Diversity means argument and disintegration. We want one out of many, not many, right? So this is a very exciting time for us. We'll be doing it on the outside. I want to get taken care. I want Hunter taken care of first. I want this lawfare off our chest. And then I might try to do something in the admin. But there is so much to do with the FBI. I don't want there to be an FBI in 2030. It has run its course. It'll be by 2030, it will be 115 years old, and the world has changed since then. And we already have a federal law enforcement agency. By the way, the marshals were in the Constitution. The marshals have been around since 1789. You know that. They were established along with the SDNY, the oldest judicial district. So we don't need the FBI. And I think Cash deep down knows that the problem is so deep that you cannot reform the FBI. You can reform certain aspects of it, but the institution's got to go. And I hope that they put a plan in place with the Congress that by 2030, the FBI's statutory authorities will be transferred to the marshals, and the budget, half of the budget goes to the states to start doing some more prosecutions, right? So that's my opinion, but that opinion is born through 2 years in the White House and a deep studying of the bureaucracy. Did you know that the U.S. federal government does not have an electronic org chart that's updatable daily? We don't have it. So the President of the United States does not have an electronic org chart updating him of all of his cabinet agencies. All we have is some static Excel sheet that the White House liaisons put together, and it's always 90 days behind. We don't have. So what I did is I tried to write a memo that said, you know, those screens at the Apple store where the screen is literally 50 feet long by 20 feet high.
Right.
The president needs one of those because we have 175 agencies and there are political appointees at each of those agencies. And right now we don't have a clue how to get our hands around it. Remember, I'm a German. I'm a systematic thinker. We have no way to put our hands around the federal bureaucracy right now. And it's because the deep state doesn't want there to be an org chart. They want us to be constantly confused and in the dark about who is in the executive branch. If you put in an electronic org chart and every single person is in a chain of command,
right,
it will, by its very essence, get rid of 30% of your problems. All of the BS of, oh, he was supposed to be talking to who, to this person. And, oh, I thought you had that. No. You guys can't hide behind that BS anymore. I'm your boss. The president he's the president of all executive branch officials, and he's their boss. There is no such thing as an independent agency. Independent agencies were created by Congress as a way to take power away from the executive. The president has sole authority to fire and hire whoever he wants in the executive branch. He can't do a thing, and you know this, but this is hardly ever talked about on the right. Nobody talks about it. I love talking about this stuff. The president can't appoint chairman of committees, right, in the Congress. That's obvious.
Right.
So why the hell would we give Congress this imagined ability to dictate what the executive is supposed to do? No, they're in charge of making the laws. We are in charge of enforcing them. So if the president wants somebody else at the FEC, FTC, SEC, that is his prerogative. And there's a huge amount of literature on this called the unitary executive theory, which I've read front to back. And I'm not an attorney, but I know a lot about it. And this type of sprawling independent agencies is a creation. It's fiction. It's alchemy. It's like free trade. Doesn't exist in actuality. We have to have a strong executive. And guess what? There are checks and balances to this. Number one, the impeachment power, which we know they've already exercised. There's term limits, and there's an election. The president's the only person elected by the whole country, right? So there are checks to this power. He should have carte blanche the ability to dictate not what the courts and Congress do, but the executive branch. And that is absolutely key. And I will be so annoying about this because there's so many times we wanted to do things on the FTC. I'll give you an example. When I worked for Peter Navarro on trade, the FTC through Congress can fine people and do other things, shut and initiate administrative proceedings if they lie about the label made in the USA. This is a key priority of ours because I like made in the USA products, and USA products are not made with slave labor, and they're better and they last. So when some Indian scammer is putting made in the USA on their knockoff crappy products, the FTC can go find them. But the FTC wasn't working at the speed with which we wanted them to. And all these people in the White House counsel's office were like, you can't communicate with the FTC. Yeah. Where the hell is that in the Constitution? Well, it's in a regulation. I don't care about an FTC regulation. We tell them what to do. We are the White House. The policy goes from the White House to the FTC. If they don't like it, they can amend the Constitution. The FTC is not this fourth branch of government. The FTC is under the executive, right? And if they are bitching about it, they can run for Congress and make a new law. But I'm so passionate about returning sole executive authority to the president because that will make or hinder Trump's ability to deport 10 million people that we need to deport, crack down on counterfeiting and pirating.
Right. And I agree with basically everything you just said. And I think that Trump is the personality who can wield that power effectively. I think that in many cases, politicians are just so weak that they like to delegate responsibility to other people, right? I don't know, Congress, my hands are tied. Congress, right? They all blame each other. Nobody wants to do anything. But a phrase we say here a lot is the grift is in the gray area. And if you don't know what the org chart shows, I've heard it from a couple people relatively recently. Mark Andreessen, the Netflix founder, he's working with the Doge people, and
I know, I've been messaging with him. He follows us on Twitter. He has a lot of good ideas, and he was in the ground floor of Netscape in 1993.
Yeah. Well, and he was saying from their analysis to the independent organizations concept that they can't get a hard number on what that is. It's over 400 when you add them all up. He said more than one for every year the country's been in existence by, 100 or so. And then Mike Lee, during the confirmation hearings of Pam Bondi, also said that he sent the Congressional Research Service a request to tell us how many criminal laws are on the books. And it's unknown. It's unknown and unknowable. So these things are disgusting when you think about this is your government and this is how your government functions. Our own government doesn't even know the size and the scope of the government. But these are all on our dollars. Okay. They are oppressing people. They're spending money that we don't have. And they're allowing all of these grifters to grift. So if Trump comes in and exercises that power of that strong executive branch, I'm with you. And I'm ready to see him draw the line in the sand and see what Congress says, right? See what the courts say. Let them threaten to withhold money from him, or let them threaten to,
which is their power.
Yeah, that's fine. Do it, right? This is checks and balances. Congress, you can exercise your power, take away the money if you, and they never do that at all. They never do that. They send letter after letter after letter to the FBI, to the CIA. Will you please come talk to us? Will you please come over here? They say, no, we're busy. And Congress just says, how about we build you another new building, right? Or increase your budget next year. It's insane.
I couldn't have said it better. And I have nothing to add except one thing. The whole idea that there's a secret plan going on. I always make a joke with by the way, I by and large love these people, but sometimes I playfully call people Q-tards because they think there's a secret plan. And this is what I tell them. People who have not spent time in the White House, or let alone in the White House and the government at all. Just go to HUD for a week and you'll know that there's no secret plan. Because first of all, no one has a clue. This is Andreessen who helped found the internet architecture. And he's telling you in a moment of sobriety and truthfulness, no one knows. So there can't be a secret plan because it's all siloed and we don't even know how many criminal laws are on our books.
Yeah.
So that, by the way, for any of our viewers watching this, that should be very motivating for them because they can get involved if they do take the time to research it. People are so ill-informed, even in the government. And think about how many administrations, Republicans and Democrats, have never done the org chart because there's such a vested interest in it. There's such a vested interest in it. We don't even know how many independent organizations there are. That is, to a Max Weber lover like me, sociology, bureaucracy, that is one of the most embarrassing things that a republic could go through, that you don't know how many organizations there are in the government. That's like you're not even doing government well.
No.
It'd be like Hunter. At one point, he didn't know how many checking accounts he had, and he called it to his assistant Katie Dodge, too many cooks in the kitchen. He didn't even know what the logins were for his online banking. Right? It's running a life that is completely amok. It is completely losing control of your life, like an addict would. Correct? That's what our country is right now. Our country is an addict, and there are too many cooks in the kitchen. So there needs to be cooks cleared out of the kitchen. The organizations have to be shut down.
And they don't want that to happen. They are digging their heels in on this big time. And we were watching Pam Bondi yesterday, and she was getting asked about, FISA questions and ATF questions and funding questions for this and the other things. And I was appreciative of the fact that she didn't give them hard, solid confirmation on FISA and stuff like this. She said, well, I'll look at it, I'll read it, right? I'll get educated on it. But I'm hopeful that if we can start to crack the facade, if we can start to see some of the declassifications and some of the disclosures about just how, it's not just, I think some people maybe get accustomed to inefficiency. They say, well, the MVD's slow, everything's slow, it's all bad, whatever. That's just government. They can't run well, which I disagree with, but they're okay with that. But when people can actually see the malfeasance and the outright corruption of lies and theft and thievery and murder, right? Maybe we get the JFK files and the CIA murdered JFK, right? We're asking ourselves, is this a real republic? And I'm hopeful that Trump flexes those muscles, flexes that executive branch, because he can get a lot done very quickly.
You said it well. There is no excuse to not act. Why on January 30th, if I were running the show, if I had Susie Wild's job, I would make sure one of the first things I do is I would get with the White House digital team and I'd say, by the way, within an hour, there'll be a new whole website. They have that WordPress thing ready to go. Like at 12:01, they'll be transferring everything. I tell the digital team, get whitehouse.gov/declass. And on that web page would be the JFK stuff. There is zero. Trump punted on this in the first term, if we're being frank, and Biden punted on it, and we knew that was going to be the case. There is no reason why this stuff doesn't need to be declassified in full. Everybody is dead, and even if they aren't, we deserve to know who killed our American president. And once they got away with that, once they got away with the murder, if we don't reveal who killed the American president, we're never going. That's as bad as it gets, right?
It's not a free country if you're in that situation. It's not a free.
We have to be proud of our republic. Right now, one thing Marco Polo is studying deeply is what Microsoft is calling Salt Typhoon. Basically, the Chi-Coms had 9 to 10 people embedded at every single big carrier: T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. Go look this up. You know about it. Salt Typhoon. Yep. I think I might have been targeted. Trump was targeted. So many people in the campaign were targeted.
Wow.
That program, Salt Typhoon, was only possible because of 702. They use the infrastructure of 702 that the carriers work out with the NSA to listen into the calls. So if somebody does a Boolean search on Google right now, 702 in quotation marks plus Salt Typhoon plus Chinese, they'll see that the moles within the government, this wasn't an outsider hack. This wasn't a hacker team sitting in Shanghai. These are CCP agents that they hired that then embedded themselves within the carriers, Verizon, et cetera, to look at our calls and who they're calling. And they did that by knowing the 702 framework that the NSA works out with all these carriers. It is terrifying.
That is scary. So they're exploiting our own laws and our own structure to use them against.
Precisely. It wasn't even brought up with Bondi. The most disappointing thing so far, and I said this to a person, Paul. I said, Tulsi, better not go back on 702. 702 is a catastrophe. It's why Cornyn is one of the worst American senators. Yeah. Cornyn, the idea that this is not abused every single day of our lives is preposterous. He said, well, if they abuse it, charge them to the fullest extent of the law. Dude, I mean, he should be primary just for that alone. 702 has been a total disaster. We can't even, you're an attorney, you know how difficult calculating damages can be. Fair damages, not the ones that Rudy got with the hood rats from Atlanta, but fair damages, reasonable, just damages, it's hard to calculate. We can't even the 702 damages that have been wrought on the American public are incalculable. We have no clue because we don't know who all was spied on.
Right. Yeah, and they were simping for it yesterday pretty hard, Cornyn in particular, saying, you know, and it's bizarre to hear these guys say it, but he went through the laundry list of all the problems. The FBI did this and Russia did and all this stuff. But they've promised us they're going to fix it. And they said they put in reforms. And so now it's very important to us and we have to keep it. And there were several of them. The only one who really stood up on that was Mike Lee from Utah. And he hit back aggressively and it was very nice to see. But I'm with you.
He's impressed me. Him and Hawley have impressed me.
Yeah.
They're about on most issues, I love Ron Johnson, especially the Bidens. But overall, I'm more ideologically aligned with Hawley and Lee and Rand Paul on some matters. Those are basically my four guys. There's about 4 or 5 in the entire U.S. Senate. That's how bad it is. Yeah. So I probably wore out my welcome. Have there been any questions? I love your viewership. So that's why I like engaging with the people on this a lot.
Yeah, let's see if there are any questions. We've got Pesci says they should see if Hunter can be charged with treason. That is the only thing that a pardon can't cover. Any thoughts on that?
Beautiful. Well, actually, it can cover treason. What it can't cover is impeachment. Since we love primary source evidence, can we go to the Constitution right now and maybe type in cases, the word CASES, and I think it's going to say in cases of impeachment. So you can actually be pardoned for treason. I know a lot of people don't know that, but you can.
Yeah, let me share it this way. Yeah, the Constitution says the court referred to the president's authority as unlimited, except in cases of impeachment, extending to every offense known to law and able to be exercised either before legal proceedings are taken, during their pendency, after conviction or judgment. Much later, the court wrote more about this.
Yep. So the guard against that, by the way, and what makes our system so incredible is in a case of, let's say, Joey pardons somebody for murder, there is hardly, I don't think any state has a statute of limitations for murder. That means the state should backlog that. So that's one of the checks and balances, right? Joey could pardon a murderer. Hunter could a crack deal could go bad for Hunter tonight in Malibu, and he pops somebody with a 45 in the forehead. Somebody in California could theoretically charge Hunter. But in cases of treason, I'm not sure if individual states have treason statutes. If they do, then yes, even a federal pardon wouldn't cover somebody. And the left figured this out. That's why they wanted Fat Fanny and Fat Alvin Bragg to really go after Trump, is he can't pardon those state level offenses. Although in the New York case, I did read an article about this, Robert. In the New York case, because it's tied to a federal election crime, which of course is ridiculous. That's why it's going to be overturned on appeal, because there wasn't unanimity required in the jury instruction, right? But because it was based on a federal scheme, I think Trump could pardon himself in the New York case. I really think he could. I would do it.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. I see what you're saying. Yeah, because the object offense, some of them could have relied on the federal charge.
Yes.
And the judge even gave him that option.
I told him this, by the way, in November of 2023 at Mar-a-Lago. I told him about this, and so he knows about it.
Awesome. Okay, so a couple comments from Boopsy over on Locals. Boopsy says, please have him on more often. I love finding out stuff. We love Garrett, so some love there. She also says, What can we do about fake news media? Is it CIA? What can we do about the CIA? Any thoughts?
Well, I think that Musk should buy MSNBC. What we need is just one main. The way we're going to get into economics again. That's what my degree is in. I think it all comes back to that, that and morality. We need one channel that has been pumped into the bloodstream of the TV cartel. And what I mean by that is Fox News is broadcast for free in the open airwaves. If Elon would just buy MSNBC, then we could have our own programming in every house in America. Because MSNBC is on DirecTV, Dish, Satellite, all of the platform. Fox News, yes, Elon could probably buy Fox News, but the Murdochs wouldn't do it, meaning he physically is able with the amount of funds he has. But I don't think Murdoch's kids, unless, for the good of the nation, what we should pray for, because there was just this trust, that trial with the Murdochs, they had a trial over their daddy's will because did you hear about this? Yeah. All five of the kiddos were supposed to get an equal cut, and somebody's mad, yada, yada, yada. He wanted to change it, and it was irrevocable, however you say it. And so he could, the whole trial was about that. So I don't think they'd give it to Musk. In that case, Musk should buy MSNBC, I think. And that is my answer to your question. Because if we just get one of those huge networks and just put Alex Jones for an hour at 11 p.m. on MSNBC. I don't even like Alex Jones personally. I like Owen Schroyer, who works at InfoWars, and I've been on Owen Schroyer's program twice. I really like him. First of all, he's from St. Louis, and that's where I went to school. But just put Alex Jones on MSNBC. It would be one of the most epic things in the history of American television. So if he buys X and MSNBC, because right now X is still in a cocoon. It's about 100 to 200 million. But the people in America, some of them voted for Trump, they're not online. And the people who aren't online, they watch TV. And we need that extra thing. So some people are asking Musk to buy TikTok. I would give that to Kevin O'Leary if I were the president. If I were advising Trump right now, I'd say, get Kevin O'Leary to buy TikTok, throw some Canadians in there for the deal, and get Elon to buy MSNBC. That would be my advice to him.
That's good advice. I think there is still a lot of credibility with the cables. People like the graphics.
Yeah, I hate it. We don't have cable, man.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. It feels like it's just like a sugar high kind of a thing. It feels very fake and not authentic and truthful, but because it's not. But there's still
we can change that with one channel.
Yeah, people still like to see it piped into their screen, and I agree. I think that'd be very powerful.
I am obsessed with one cable television show though, because it's online also, is C-SPAN. Whenever my friends who are from my high school, right? I'm from a small town here. When my friends from high school or my sister, who I love dearly, who also probably can't name three Supreme Court justices, when they ask me where to watch something, I always say C-SPAN. C-SPAN is no foreplay, no extra stuff, just brass tacks, very little commentary. I love C-SPAN.
We do a lot of C-SPAN here. We're appreciative.
I love
their
them.
work.
It's pathetic how much I love C-SPAN. I sent a copy of the dossier to Brian Lamb's house in Arlington. He's a founder of C-SPAN. He's from Northern Indiana. He went to Purdue University. Probably one of my favorite people in American history, Brian Lamb.
Amazing. Brian Lamb, shout out. Okay, one final question for you, my friend. This one came in from John McGarvey. He says, what's next for you after the Hunter saga? If that ever ends, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Well, I'll be pushing for the release of case files remember, the FBI director has come along with the president, complete control over what's in the evidence locker. Especially with Epstein, you can make an argument that Ghislaine Maxwell's attorneys are going to make that they can't release stuff on that because she's still living. But the entire Epstein case file should be released, along with the Weiner laptop. So we're going to be lobbying hard. I would love to go through Anthony Weiner's laptop. The FBI still has that. It's in an evidence locker, probably in the New York field office. So we're going to be hopefully get that leaked to us. We're going to be trying to get sources within the government and do long form projects like this, because knowing my own limitations, we all got to know what we're good and bad at. I am bad at the daily news. What I'm really good at is that game at MLB stadiums where you follow the ball within the hat.
Yeah.
It's like a shell game. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm stupidly good at that, and that's what it takes to do this book. I can follow the ball under the baseball cap for like 2 minutes, and that's what the Anthony Weiner laptops. And by the way, we have no reason why we can't have that. Why can't we get access to the Epstein case file? He's dead. Now, how he died, his own brother doesn't think he committed suicide. Just tell you that, right? He had that great interview with Tucker Carlson. So his own brother doesn't even believe he suicided himself. So if he's dead, either way, suicide or not, why the hell can't we see the investigative file? That stuff should be open. That should be on whitehouse.gov/dclass.
Yep. I hope it ends up there.
The public paid for it.
Yep.
The public paid for the pension for every Fed to write search warrants, go through the tapes. When they raided that sex den on the Upper East Side, they took like 400 CDs from there. What's on the CDs? I want to see the compromat, right? I'm not saying just like do it like we did. We didn't put the genitalia out there. In fact, that's why Hunter's suing us. Hunter's suing us because we didn't put his penis on the internet, right? So don't put the genitalia of the Epstein victims or their sex traffickers, but we need to know the names. Small project we're doing. I'm going to be in Boston later this month to track the brothel clients whose names are going to be released finally, because the Boston Globe, shout out to I don't even like the Boston Globe, but they did a good thing here. They sued the magistrate's court and got the show cause hearings, which is a state level hearing that Massachusetts has, to the brothel clients. And the U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts said that they were politicians, CEOs, Pentagon people with security clearances, and it was a honeypot operation that the Koreans and Chi-Coms ran out of Boston and Los Angeles. And we're tracking this closer than any entity on the planet. I actually went to the courthouse and got on the Pacer terminal in Boston. That's how obsessed I am with this case, because they haven't released any of the names yet. So we'll get those names. 28 of them for sure. We're going to find their names.
Amazing.
It could be one of the senators. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think there's probably some very, very powerful people on that Epstein list, and
they're going to hate me too. We'll probably get sued over it. Don't care.
Well, we'll be here to support you, man. I'm glad that you're on that. So, all right. So you're going to the inauguration tomorrow. You're heading out. And
yes, sir. We are going to. I want to be able to pack heavy because it's going to be freezing, 20 degrees on Monday with wind. So we're driving out there. We're getting the other two board members and I are going to be recognized on Saturday. We're going to one of the balls with Lee Greenwood. I think he's emceeing it, and then we'll be there right below where Melania is holding the Bible. And by the way, shout out to Melania. What an amazing woman. I mean,
big time.
She has nerves, man. Like to stand by and be loving towards the four indictments and know how. I think I disagree with her stance on abortion, but I think even she is pulling Trump to the right. She knows she's from a communist Slovenia.
Yeah.
She knows how secret police work. And, one of my wishes is that Jack Smith and Katie Chevigny go back to The Hague. I hope they leave the country. And I hope that she doesn't do any more documentary projects, because we've talked about this. I mean, his wife was the hagiographer for Michelle, who's skipping the inauguration. It's an absolute disgrace. I bet Katie and Michelle talk about FISA 702 and listen in on people's calls. I'd love to listen to the call between Michelle and Katie Chevney after Cannon dismissed the case in Florida. I bet Michelle and Katie were really cussing it up on probably their Soul Cycle cell phone talks.
Probably. That's great.
Disgusting people.
They are, and Michelle's not going to be going there. I saw an article. She didn't go to the Carter funeral either. So
yeah, I was disappointed that the president didn't ask Biden and Jill to just sit this one out. I mean, I would love for him. I would love for all the former presidents to just watch it from your TV or from your living room this time, because it's really a glorious thing. And by the way, he's not required to get inaugurated in D.C. You know this, but some of your listeners may not. George Washington was inaugurated in Manhattan, And there's no requirement that he be inaugurated on the steps of the Capitol. It's just convention. But Trump could be inaugurated at Mar-a-Lago, and which is where I want his presidential library. Right west of Mar-a-Lago, before you hit the water, there's a huge patch of grass that they use as a parking lot now. I really want the library to go there. And that's where I want that 2-story bronze statue to go. I'm going to try to help make that happen.
Amazing. Well, man, I'm really grateful that you're out there fighting the fight that you're fighting. And thank you so much for swinging by before you head out.
Thank you for having me.
To go.
Thank you for having
man.
me today.
Remind people how to support you, where they can follow you, where to get a copy of the book that I highly recommend. I've got several copies of these, and I've given out dozens more to people.
You'll get a new box
to buy it. So yeah, and you just have to go check it out. It's an experience more than anything. So just go
it's
check
the deepest digital colonoscopy ever performed on a U.S. first family. It's the deepest
amazing.
one. And go to BidenReport.com. Okay, that is the e-reader. You can everything Robert and I talked about today with Hunter. It can be read for free. We're a charity. All the data is free. There's nothing we ask of you. If you want a physical copy, which helps fund the nonprofit and the Legal Defense Fund, go to BidenReport.com. That's the e-reader, and there's a button at the top where you can get a physical copy. So BidenReport.com.
Amazing. All right, Garrett, Ziegler, my friends, thank you so much for coming by, man. I hope you have safe travels to the inauguration. Congrats on your award. Thanks for all the amazing work.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
God bless you, Garrett. All right, my friends, Garrett Ziegler in the house, and as always, just a wealth of knowledge. So a lot more details on the Biden crime family, and you can see he's not even close to being done on any of this. So soon as we get beyond some of the Hunter shenanigans, we're going to just open the box for Epstein and all of the other criminals that permeate our government. And so thank you to Garrett for coming by. Thank you to Adam Johnson for coming by. I saw some great comments and support come in. Thank you, my friends. We're going to jump into those in a minute. Let me just remind you before we say hello to you that we do have our inauguration party, which is happening on Monday. And we'd love to come see you join us, have you come join us in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Mar-a-Lago of the Southwest. We're going to be meeting 9 a.m., inaugurations at 10. We're going to be hanging out together, watching it on a big screen, having brunch together, meeting tons of watchers, and we're going to have some awesome people there. So come join us. Get your tickets. They're $100. Watcherlodge.com. Everything is included. Bring a friend. It's going to be historic, and we're going to be partying together. So come check that out. Watcherlodge.com. Links down in the description below. If you can't make it to the White House or to the Capitol over this next few days. So Watcherlodge.com. And my friends, now we want to say thank you to you and everybody who supported us today. I saw some great comments come in. And so let's pull those up and see who is joining us. We got some gifts also. Hey, Tony, hey, Munkets is bringing in some new members. And new members, we had a great members only stream this morning. It was a lot of fun. We talked about Rudy today. And I don't know what ultimately happened with Rudy, but we did talk about Rudy. Okay, so we got some comments that came in and some new members. Man, look at all these. Thank you, guys. All right, let's see who we have. Happy Thursday. B.H. Williams also says, you could spend the entire afternoon show playing the clips of Pam Bondi roasting Democrats, and I would be fully engaged. It was fun. We have fun. We like roasting Democrats because they're so easy to roast. Hey, what's up? Carrie B's clipping for us. 1917 Beamer says, Rudy Giuliani settled with those election workers in Georgia. I guess they saw that Trump train. I'm really glad because they didn't deserve anything. So is that why he was not at trial this morning? Because there was a settlement? Interesting. Yeah, I'm not up to speed. It was kind of madness this morning. Glocky says, this story is crazy. They basically barred him from entering and arrested him for exercising his free speech in Georgia. Georgia is dysfunctional. I saw this video, man. This video was pretty intense. State senator arrested at Georgia while trying to enter the House chamber. Yeah, so a senator was trying to go into the opposite house, and he basically got tackled on that. It was pretty aggressive. Glocky says, Democrats just delayed Pete's confirmation, so for at least the first 3 days of Trump's presidency, he won't have a SecDef. So we're not going to have a confirmation vote anytime soon, is what you're saying. That's great. Hey, Boozy B says, I know it says 98 watching, but I only see 3 here. If you're here, hit the thumbs up, says Buzzy B. Thank you, Buzzy B, for the reminder. And thank you for hitting the like button, my friends. Hey, Niels, 11 months as a member, says, my copy of the Biden report is in the mail. Estimated delivery date, January 20th. Epic, Niels. It's going to be the best inauguration party gift you've ever gotten. And thanks for supporting Marco Polo and Garrett. They're doing awesome work. Glocky says, they are still dropping new charges for January 6th. Totally. I follow the FBI DC account. And they're charging people. They charged somebody this morning or sentenced somebody this morning. They charge everybody. They don't care. Trump's coming in 4 days. They don't care. Hey, this one came in from Tony Hay Munkets, bringing in 10 new membos. Thank you, Tony Hay, for bringing in 10 new friends. What's up, Robin V? Maria Flores here. Jimmy Welch. We got L. Rebby Lee. The Willa Magger. Welcome. GMA Judy. Gist Proud. WFM. JH. And Jason Cook in the house. Courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets, bringing him in. Hey, what's up? Voice of the People says, ask him about Via Getty. LOL. Via Getty from Voice of the People. And was that for Garrett or for Adam? I'm sorry I missed that voice. I don't know which one that would have been. I am divine creation, but probably a good question. I am divine creation, except I don't know what the LOL is for. What is that? What are you intimating there? What am I not getting, voice? I am divine creation, says Rob. How do we get stuck with qualified immunity for cops? It's not constitutional. Well, they just made it up for them. Look, I do believe that there is some level of immunity that exists functionally for certain things, right? Like if your job is to do the thing and you do it appropriately and legally and lawfully, you shouldn't be prosecuted for that thing. But what's happened with the qualified immunity doctrine is it's been perverted and expanded to encompass basically everything, including criminality. And the police unions fight for it. And we have a lot of bad cops that continue to exist because of this doctrine. And there's nothing you can do about it. And they just move from bureau to bureau or from force to force. They go from one county, they get in trouble there, go to a different state in a different county, and they get a new job. Thank you, I'm Divine Creation. Hey, Wookie Elnil says coup d'etat video is still on YouTube from Wookie Elnil. And Lou Maldonado says, hey, hit the like button. Come on, my friends, hit it, says Lou Maldonado. Let's get Mr. Gouveia up to 1,000 likes. Thank you, Lou. I appreciate that. You can call me Rob, too. Hey, what's up, Wookie? Hey, it's the Munkets is here, bringing in 10 new membos. We got Norm is joining us, Janine Shores, Flex Abel, Karen E, Scott Hotvet. We got NABR, Sodium Bromine. Just Rhonda is welcoming everybody. Max Chessman, MCE, Maynard. We got Neil Nice, Genius by Birth, and Shane Souza in the house. Good to be born a genius. That's nice if that happens. Didn't for me. Spud says, if Hunter got pardoned, did Garrett's report get a pardon as well? Since it covered many of the various crimes and verified crimes by the miscreant actions done by Hunter? That's a great question. Should have asked Garrett. Does the Hunter Biden pardon cover you too? Because you've covered all of his cases so aggressively. Former says, I'm surprised that Bondi didn't accuse Adam Schiff of attempting to silence a woman by speaking over her. And if Schiff's problem was with her or all women. Yeah, he was a misogynistic bigot yesterday. I can't believe he addressed her that way. He should be censured again in the Senate. Lady Ice says, that is my theory on J6. They set it up fully expecting it would be a much bigger event that would have justified all their actions, but it didn't. So they had to really make some stretches to connect the dots on their insurrection, therefore making all of the efforts to prove the steal in vain because it made everyone treasonous, traitorous domestic terrorists having no rights or credibility or authority to investigate. But God works in mysterious ways, and now the rot is exposed. Now the rot is exposed. Voice of the People is in the house, bringing in 10 new friends. Thank you, Voice. Look who's coming in. Angel Wings, Cat Mama, Top Load Telly, IK, Hold My Halo, Adam Newman, Denise Horton, Dudes, Diamond Jewels, Malice Gaming, and Pensive Peggy. Gifted membos courtesy of Voice of the People. We had Stop the China Fraud Hustle. Says the China hustle plus the Biden crime family is the real RICO. The Frog Feeder tells us this. The Georgia Republican senator forcibly arrested today. Another great ping on that one. Yeah, and I wonder if those charges will stick. We got Trump announcements. He's announcing Richard Fordyce as the next United States Undersecretary for Farm and Ag. And we'll have to learn more about Fordyce. Also says Michael Boren will be serving as the new Natural Resources and Environment person at Agriculture. And both those recommendations or those notes came in courtesy of John McGarvey. Thank you, John. More announcements are coming. There's John's tip. Thank you, John, for that. Thank you, John. Hey, Stop the China Fraud says connects with Burisma and Shokin. This is like an inverted reality. And Dona is telling us what a subpoena ducis tecum is, which is documents. It's a subpoena for documents. There's a subpoena for the person and a subpoena for the docs. And we talked a little bit about both those. Thank you for that, Donut. We got Stop the China Fraud Hustle says, Arkansas docket 32 DR 19187, December 2019, a felony. Shared this one, which is the paternity suit between Lewd and Alexis Roberts and Robert Hunter Biden. And that was the case that Garrett Ziegler explained that he was a witness on. He went and testified there. Trumpum. What's up, Trumpum? Sending in a dono, no question. More here says, well said. And B. Torn says, I agree. Man, it is a great comment. It's brilliant. Thank you, Trumpum, for the dono. Hey, Stop the China Fraud Hustle says, why did McSpadden recuse? Burisma. Why did McSpadden recuse? Burisma. Ravicus says, let us pray for the health and welfare of us all. 4 days until we take our country back, baby. We're excited about it. Thank you, Ravicus. Beautiful pick. Hey, Tater Twats. What's up, Tater Twat? Is that a bad? I think that's okay. Thank you for always making my days more sarcastically, intelligently, delightfully tolerable. Happy times, sad times, your quick wit, and your fast clip delivery. Thank you, Tater. Well, thank you for that. Sometimes they're marginally intelligent. Not often, but sometimes they hit. You know, it's kind of like a broken clock. It's right twice a day. Well, thank you, Tater. We got this one from Glocky. He says, breaking news. Rudy gets to keep his houses and his personal belongings. Amazing. That's great news. So I think Rudy's time will come. All right. Rudy's out in the wilderness right now, but we're back in charge now. So I think he's going to have his second coming. What's up? Rivka says, the Jade Gamer says, my dream for the FBI is that it becomes an auditing agency for state and federal police. They serve as expert witnesses for police misconduct. Yeah, the FBI is birthed out of corruption. J. Edgar Hoover was one of the most corrupt people in our country of all time. May have killed Kennedy. So yeah, they need to, if you're born out of a corruption, you got to really be righted. Uncle Bozy says, I can't paint, but I am an Ansel Adams level photographer. I call this work fishing knife. It's for sale for $300,000 and worth every penny. If anybody here is interested, just you can cut him a check for $300,000. Here's his picture. I need advance notice though, because I store all my work in a storage unit in a hurricane zone. So get it while you can. Look at that. $300,000. And on your screen, it's only worth $100,000. But if you want a real photograph, it's worth $300,000. So it's actually, I really like that actually. Like a little whittling knife. I like it. Hey, Sportfish says, Rob, rumor has it that the Obamas might be divorcing. Do you think Big Mike might hire Nathan Wade for her divorce as her divorce attorney? I don't know. It was Michelle Obama indicting someone else? You know, maybe they have something in common. I don't know. Maybe they'll go on a cruise together and travel around the Bahamas. Hey, Pesci. What's up, Pesci35? Says they should see if Hunter can be charged with treason. That's the only thing that a pardon can't cover. And I think we looked that up accurately, but thank you, Pesci, for that one. It's a fun idea. Pinochet's helicopter tour, some of the best rides you've ever been on, says disappointed feds didn't raid me for buying the laptop report and clowning on the luminescent morons. Also, I would love for Massachusetts to have have federal funds held until the Constitution is followed. From Pinochet's helicopter tours. Executive branch and government have the monopoly on violence. Totally. If the government can point a gun in my face, the government can point guns at bureaucrats and force feds to quit or lie where they stand. Man, that's right. Yeah, and if prosecutors can come stab you multiple times when you are on the way home, That's also a problem. Voice of the People says, Salt Typhoon. Wait, if you watch off label, Lindy Lee is a crimson flag now. And Jennifer saying, yeah, you picked up on it, Voice. So check it out, Off Label Podcast. They're ahead of the curve. Boopsy says, please have him on more often. I love finding out stuff. And what can we do about fake news and the CIA? Garrett says, buy MSNBC. I think it's a smart idea. Hey, it's the Munkets is here, bringing in 10 new membos. Thank you, hey, Tony, hey, Munkets. Colin Page is, Colleen is here. Suze is here. Non-precision. We got Dennis Gunn, Carly, Alicat, Chris G, Susan Danielle, Jean Sullivan, Michael Galloway, and Jennifer in the house, coming in courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Thank you, Tony Hay, for bringing our new membos in. Londo says, can we ask Trump, someone with his ear, to make propaganda illegal in America again, especially propaganda from the government? Yeah, I mean, you run into the question, if the government is prohibiting certain information from coming out, is that propaganda in and of itself? Because then you have a selective withdrawal of information. The government says, we are, like they did say propaganda was illegal. We couldn't talk about the jabs. We couldn't talk about COVID or lockdowns. We couldn't talk about medical misinformation and all sorts of things. So it's a problem often when the government gets involved because they're liars and they don't do a good job. Pinochet says, under Article 3, Section 3, Congress and by nature of the 10th Amendment, state governments are forbidden from declaring corruption of blood and attainder on a family. The people are not, however. From Pinochet's helicopter tours. Sharon Lathan, thank you, Sharon, for becoming a new member. We'll see you tomorrow. Members, we'll be back tomorrow on our Friday members-only morning stream. Hopefully you join us. John McGarvey, great question for Garrett, and I'm glad that he got to explain that for us because he's up to a lot of good. Pinochet's helicopter tours says the feds had James Comey's daughter prosecute Ghislaine Maxwell. That's right, they did. To keep the government's involvement hidden. If you need extra security in Boston, let me know, Mr. Ziegler. Courtesy of Pinochet's helicopter tours. Thank you for that, Pinochet. Tony Hay Munkett says, God bless Alex Jones, okay? He started it all. Without him, I never would have searched for you or anybody else I watched. He waked me up. He waked me up in 2015. Yeah, Alex Jones is great. Alex Jones, I've been in and out of Alex Jones's world for like a decade, longer than that, right? Even coming up as a young man, I remember seeing him. Who is this guy? What is InfoWars? All that stuff. And I appreciate his contributions big time. We're better off with Alex. Third proverb says, never going to DC ever again. Ever. For a third proverb. Oh, Twitter users mistake Getty for the name of the Capitol rioter. Mistake Via Getty. What kind of name is Via Getty? That's hilarious. So that was an Adam Johnson question. Oh gosh. Okay. So on the photo of him with the podium, it said Via Getty, right? Because Getty takes photos. And so they Via, whose name is Via? It's almost like Viva. Who would do that? Who called themselves Via? Rebecca Ratliff. What's up, Rebecca? Thank you for becoming a supporter, Rebecca. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only morning stream. Uncle Bozy says, what concerns me are the attacks and disbarring of lawyers defending Trump and other lawfare victims. Is there a process that can rein in these state bar associations? Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, state bar associations do have a lot of power, but I think you'll probably have to deal with them on a state-by-state basis individually. And so it will depend on the states. But yeah, the 65 Project was the organization that was corralling a bunch of lawyers to take their licenses away. And Clavicle Girl's ex-lawyer called Stephan Passatino is suing them. So some people are working to stop that from happening, but not actually suing the bar, suing the people who are abusing the bar is what's happening. Jennifer says, please join Voice of the People tonight. Off-Label Podcast is the name. 5 p.m. Pacific time, which is happening any minute, maybe right now. So go check it out as soon as we're done. Off-Label Podcast is where you need to go. Uncle Bozy says, thank you for that, Uncle Bozy. Great question. More Here is bringing in 5 more here. Poppet 2 is joining us. Hello, Poppet. Al Coker is here. Mr. Twister is here. Streak 9 is joining us. And Matthew Spouse, gifted membos, courtesy of More Here, bringing in More Here. Jennifer is correcting the record. Voice's show is called Off Label Podcast, not Voice of the People Podcast. So check out Off Label Podcast. Thank you, Jennifer. Have a great stream. We got Corey Marius. What's up, Corey? Corey! Oh my gosh. Hey, this is great. Okay, so this is so great. Okay, so I forgot to mention this at the start of the show. Corey, my friends, what do you think of this new haircut, huh? Pretty fresh and slick. Who is responsible for that? Corey Morris. So I just got a haircut today, made a gamble, went to Prescott Barbershop right down the street here and met the first barber. His name was Corey. He's an amazing dude. We had a great haircut. He is a U.S. Army vet, served our country for 8 years, and is an awesome dude. And it was really fun to chat with him. He says, God bless to everyone watching. It was great meeting you today. Welcome to your new community, and I hope you enjoy the area. Also, I forgot to show you my Trump barber cape. I'll have you wear it next time. Ah, this is great. Corey, amazing, dude. Okay, so the barbershop was great. I had a great experience. So if you're in Prescott, you're looking for a good haircut, Prescott Barbershop. It's amazing. Great location. Guy's name is Corey. Did a great cut. Look at this, man. I look crisp. I look fresh. I feel confident. And I look good too. Thanks to Corey. He can even work with my head. So that was great. So amazing. Corey, thank you so much, brother. It was great to meet you. Thank you for coming by the stream. And I can't wait to wear that Trump barber cape, and we'll share it here. It's going to be fun. So good to see you, Corey. Awesome dude. Thank you, brother. Hey, Londo is here. And thanks for the nice dono, Corey. I just paid you. Thank you, Corey. What's up? Londo says, it doesn't matter. Propaganda was illegal before Obama. It should be illegal again. It doesn't matter. Propaganda was illegal. It should be illegal again. From Londo. Hey, it's the Munkets is here, bringing in 10 new membos. Macy Dunbar is coming in. Kat is in the house. We got Malchus Dunn, Kenneth Adair. We got D Ski, Brian plus Sarah's here. Yo. We got Karen Vaughn, Matt Hansen, and Say No to Globalism, which is a great name. We don't need globalism garbage in our country. Libby T, what's up? Says great stream. Thank you, Libby T. Yeah, it was different today. We had 2 interviews. We never do that, but we wanted to make sure we said hello to them before they made their way to the inauguration, because we're all celebrating on Monday. Starship Heavy Lifter Rapid Unscheduled Disassembly. Oh, man, that's a bummer. All right, let's see what happened here. Rapid Unscheduled Disassembly. I love that. That's fun. Do you mean an explosion? No, it didn't explode. It was a rapid unscheduled disassembly. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Here's what happened. No, Elon. No. All right. But they caught the booster, I guess. Man, look at that. That is wild. What a scene that is. Can you believe that? Crazy. Rapid unscheduled disassembly. It's all right. Things blow up. I mean, you gotta crack a few eggs if you're going to make some omelets. You know what I mean? So it's all good. Elon and the crew, shout out. They're going to get back up there. We're going to be on Mars in no time. Not even worried about it. All right, let's see what else we got. A couple others came in. Thank you, White Buffalo, for sharing that one. Colleen, thank you for becoming a supporter. Thank you for becoming a supporter. Colleen, we'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream. And White Buffalo, 8 months as a membo, almost 9 full months till we have a baby. Starship exploded in space. You can see metal peel. There it is from this old guy. Starship Rapid Unscheduled Disassembly. Wild. But I'm going to check that out. Did they catch the bottom half with the chopsticks? Hey, member for 2 months, says More Here. +2. Hey, I just turned green. At hour 30 in the UK for More Here. We're glad you're green, More Here. Thanks for being a member for 2 months. First month's the hardest, gets easier from there. Just Rhonda, I noticed you got your ears lowered today. Yeah, and this is that phrase that keeps coming up again. Somebody said that last time I got a haircut, I think like 6 months ago. And I said, the heck kind of phrase is that? You get your ears lowered today? Someone said, I said, what? I don't think so. I think we're at the same location. Turns out everybody in the whole world except me knows that's a euphemism for getting a haircut. Got it. But I'm a little slow. All right. And so let's say hello to our friends on X, and then we're going to wrap it up, go over to locals for our watchingthewatchers.locals.com members only after party. Okay, here's a little bit more of the spaceship. Here's what happened. Elon just shared this. Let's see. No audio. Is that the bottom half? There it is. Get out of here. Do it. Do it. What the heck? Get out of here. Ah! They just did that again? Oh my gosh. Okay, so half of it exploded, the other half landed. Wow. Crazy. All right, so that's pretty cool. Pretty cool that they are catching some of it. The other half they'll catch the next time around. So amazing. All right, so I wanted to say hello to our friends on X before I got distracted by the rocket. You know, I can't help myself. All right, let's see who's joining us. We had a couple comments over here. B. Torn says, a sound argument on why not all pardons are good for the recipients. They are hurting some and benefiting others with cases on appeal. So some people, their appeals might not be processed accordingly because they become moot. Hey, what's going on? Teresa. Hey, Teresa Pagano says, hey, Lectern leader, I had no idea you were in Pinellas County. LR Caddies says, excellent interview with Lectern leader. Love your show. Thank you, LR. We love Lectern leader and love you back. AZ Sunshine says, J6er is wrongfully charged, needed an exoneration. Pardon admits guilt. This was a political prosecution. Look up Alpha Warrior X. Will do. And he'd be a great interview. Thank you for that, AZ Sunshine. Amazing. Charged for J6 tweets. That sounds a little familiar. Okay, thank you for that one, AZ Sunshine. Great reco. We got Rella Bella. Trump can threaten to ban donations from Big Pharma if RFK is not approved. Mini Tika Starship was launching. And James said, okay, so you're saying Hunter's making money off the fires. Watch out, Newsom. His cousin Lawrence Pelosi was the VP of Lennar that got the exclusive contracts to develop closed military bases. Wild. Hey, what's up, Jesse Oppenheimer? Look at this. Hey, this is fun. Look at this good pup over there. Watching the show. Watching the show right there. That little good pup right there. Lots of fun. Hey, Crystal says, Rob, give me a follow. All right. I'm a subscriber on YouTube. And this account is at For Freedom One USA. Crystal Stanley. Boom, followed. Good to see you, Crystal. And finally, we've got Shaky McNasty says, hey, fellas, caught you on YouTube. Adam, thanks for all you do. I was fortunate enough to skate, perhaps because I've known Biden since we were kids. And those are some comments from Shaky McNasty and our other friends on X. And so be sure to follow everybody that you saw here today on X. Adam Johnson's there at Lectern Leader, Marco Polo USA, Garrett Ziegler, and your boy, if you care to do so, at Rob Govea, ESQ on X. And so, my friends, a couple final donos came in. Tyler, we got a new baby in the house. Happy newborn, Tyler. It's a donor baby, but it's loved all the same. We still love our donor babies. That's okay. We treat them like they're our own, because they are. We love all of our children. Thank you, Tyler, for being here. And thank you for Membos, for donating Membos so that we can have even Membo babies while we're here together. All right. And so, my friends, it's been a fun stream. Thanks for joining us. We are going to come back tomorrow for the regular schedule. So Membos, we'll see you in the morning if you're a YouTube Membo or a Locals Membo. We'll see you 9 a.m. Arizona, 11 Eastern for the morning stream. And then we'll be back here for the regular show to get into it again. and it is going to be fun. I know that Kristi Noem is going to be doing her confirmation hearing in the morning. We're not going to cover it live, but maybe we'll do some highlights in the evening, and we'll have Trump's hearing to talk about too, and that whole second volume of the Jack Smith report might be out. But we're going to have fun. We'll be back here to get into it again. It's going to be a beautiful Friday. We're coming on Monday for our inauguration watch party in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so if you're looking for something fun to do and to have enjoyment on a historic day, come join us. Get your tickets, watcherlodge.com. Brunch and fun in the Mar-a-Lago of the Southwest in Scottsdale, Arizona. We'd love to see you there. It's happening Monday. You can take the day off work. It's okay. Work will be there on Tuesday, and it's going to be much better because Trump will be the president. So come join us on Monday, January 20th, 9 a.m., inauguration watch party, Scottsdale, Arizona. Tickets at watcherlodge.com. Okay, and so, my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. I want to thank our amazing mods who help keep the train on the tracks. We've got K Bean in the house, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek. Keeping things so nice and orderly and beautiful around here. And that, my friends, is going to be it for us on the day. Locals, hang tight. We're coming over to say hello. Otherwise, my friends, we are going to be back here tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.